Smith has some room. No, brought down nicely. Both down, and that's Urlacher with it. Down to the 50. He's got to beat the quarterback. Hesitates, and he's going to go all the way.
This is 365 Sports.
Just outside the 35-yard line. Peterson, the freshman, cutting back. He's going to get there. First touchdown of his career, Adrian Peterson.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Marner is back deep again for the Ducks, and this is a beautiful punt. Back to the 15, running backwards, loose, free ball, touchdown, LSU. Matthew picks it up and runs in, and LSU strikes.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Favre rolling and throwing under pressure, and it's intercepted. Dion, he may score right away. It is Sanders for the touchdown.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
White darts up the middle. Head White in the open field. Head White to the house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go in the studio for the next 3 hours, 365 Sports. David Smoak, Craig's in the red jacket, and Paul Catalina wearing his kind of more purple, or is that a...
It's navy.
Navy. And then I have the blue with striped Masters shirt that I love to wear during the shows during the week or any time of the Masters. First round, of course, the early afternoon. Those who teed off are on the course, and some are done. Some have had a pretty good day, and some, like Lucas Glover, who I have on my team, you got to make the cut to have everybody have a chance to win our pool. He's having a bad day, but we'll get all that. We'll give you a leaderboard a few times during the day today. UNT football coach Eric Morris, part of our guests, Max Olsen, Sam Kahn, and many others. But we start today with this story. Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava, I got it. I practiced that since I woke up this morning, is, according to Adam Sparks, who writes for Vols Quest, seeking a new multi-million-dollar NIL deal just ahead of the transfer portal opening up, creates a tense situation for the Volunteers who finished spring practice with their orange and white game this Saturday.
It's awkward and strange that especially the guy who, I mean, we know how much he got the first time around. It was subject of a very massive court case that changed the face of college athletics once again. And, I mean, he played okay last year, but he didn't play give me a raise worthy last year. As a matter of fact, I mean, they were in the playoff, so good for them, but you know, like maybe I don't know what this is about. Like it's weird. And again, they don't know if he's going to go in the transfer portal, if this is just a like who knows, but welcome to college sports.
He will be having a media session. Craig, his next appearance expected after the spring game on Saturday.
Yeah, first of all, it's just VolQuest. There's no S on the end of Vols, but they've been around a long time. And congratulations on, I think, sort of kind of getting the Nico last name pretty close, certainly closer than you have in probably previous efforts, certainly all of us in previous efforts.
Iamaleava.
Yeah, you did foul off the first pitch, but we'll let you take it on this one.
Iamaleava.
I had a foul tip?
Yeah, fouled off the first pitch.
I have that. Listen, compared to the first time I ever tried, and I hate it, and I know, Craig, that your ears burn. I just butchered him almost every time.
That was definitely your best shot.
Thank you very much.
Iamaleava is how you say it, but I think this is just here's the thing. I need to know the details. Like, I need to know the details. Is this him and his representatives saying that he needs more money because others are trying to poach him or because he just feels justified to it? Or is this Tennessee saying, pal, you make too much money. You're not quite worth what we're investing in you, especially if the early figures were correct of like $7 million and whatnot. You were pretty good last year. You weren't one of the best quarterbacks in the country, though. So we could really use to push some money over to, like, the defensive side of the ball or get you some weapons. Like, who's asking for the negotiation here?
His father would not comment or not available immediately. One of the things Adam Sparks wrote in this was he signed that blockbuster NIL contract, which we discussed in 2022, reportedly paid him more than $2 million per year, which, of course, over a 3 or 4 year period of time, that you got the totals on that. So that remains to be seen.
Okay, if it's from his side, then I'm Tennessee. I'm saying, all right, dude, see you later. I mean, you've already ponied up pretty good money for him. He's a good quarterback, a really good quarterback, potentially. But I just think this sucks for college football, no matter who it is. I don't think guys should be signing deals and then, renegotiating constantly. This is where the NFL is absolutely better than college football. You sign your deal, that is your deal. Now, you might have some contract negotiations at times.
Guys hold out, skip practice.
But you typically do that when you've come off of, like, a really good year. And he was good. He was not great. So I don't know where the idea for this came from, or if this is just common now where every offseason you've got to renegotiate, which we have seen that plenty of times. So maybe that's just the case here. But the timing of it reeks if you're Tennessee. I just need more details because I don't think he played to a level where he needs to be renegotiating post-spring. But also the timing of it is why details matter, because is this going – hey, we got you all the way through spring. Now we're going to pop it on you, Josh Heupel, that now we want more money. We're going to screw you guys over. Mm-hmm. And so that's where this is not quite clear to me just yet, and I am interested to learn more of the details on exactly what's going on here. But, yeah, I first saw that, and what was my response in the group chat?
You said, I hope he's going to get a pay cut.
No, I said it's negotiating. I said, yeah, it better be for a pay cut. I mean, because I don't –
Well – you're right. He didn't have the best numbers. He threw for nearly 3,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 5 picks, ran for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. But, he wasn't like at the very top of the quarterback list or the ones that were.
Look, they made the playoff. That's his
absolutely, man.
That's his negotiating stronghold there. That's where he's got a point. Like, hey, we were one of the 12 teams in the playoff. Don't worry about what happened when we got there. And we got drilled at home by the eventual national champion. That is notwithstanding, you wanted me to get you to the playoff, and I got you to the playoff. That is the only thing I can say is the real negotiating stronghold here. But he is from the West Coast, and there are a couple teams out there that I think would like to have a quarterback of his skill set. So I wonder if, some of this is the tampering that goes on, and it comes from that side of the country.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some of that. I'm just saying, if it was me, from my perspective, if this is like a move on his and his agent's part to screw you over as spring ball's wrapping up and all of a sudden say, oh, yeah, now we want more money, I think that's BS. I think that sucks for the game. I think that sucks for Tennessee fans. I think that sucks for any fan base, whether you feel like it's justified or not. I just don't think that's good for the sport. So to see that, again, need more details, but if I'm Tennessee, I saw plenty of their fans who were like, all right, see ya. Like, they don't want to do this and play this game, because then what happens next year? Mm-hmm. We're going to do this all over again. What happens the year after that if he stays? We're going to do this all over again. What kind of precedent does that set? So, yeah, man, this is the part of the game that is right near the top of the list of what drives coaches crazy. And then again, what if it were to come out that Tennessee's like, hey, maybe we think you should take a little bit of a shave? Obviously, he's not going to go for that, but I think that's where some people's minds immediately went of negotiation. Well, on the part of who? Most likely him trying to get more money and doing it at a time where they're vulnerable. But that's college football in 2025 for you.
On3 also had a report about this, that the NL collective that pays him on behalf of Tennessee trying to hammer out a deal this week. He signed that deal, so no one's talking. He won't be available till after the spring game Saturday. Father has not yet responded. Neither has, in fact, the sports group that represents him. But, yeah, this is interesting. In the NFL, you could have a 5-year deal or a 3-year deal, and you got guys that hold out or won't go to workouts. But there are contracts that also kick in fines. And if you want to sit out a year, you're not getting paid. And you could, so this, again, it's a pro model. So now, has anyone else done this yet? that we know of publicly?
I mean, I don't know how public it was, and based on what I saw, like, it's not like there's bad blood here.
No,
I mean, he's like, they're just, it's business, right? It's just business. It's just the type of business that we're not used to seeing in this fashion very, very much at all, if ever. So the fact that it is so public, I think, is what's kind of shocking on the surface of it. If I were to guess, they're going to knock out a deal. Everybody will be happy. He'll be the starting quarterback, and they'll expect to go make the playoff and compete for a natty. But if it's more of one of those, like, messy situations that, you know, is like holding hostage, then I think that's where it obviously could get very ugly, and you'd have Tennessee fans going, all right, screw this, let's move on. But it doesn't sound like it's that. It sounds like it's just business, and we'll see where that business lands them. But I don't know how this is fun for people of a fan base, of a coaching staff, to have to deal with this on a yearly basis and not know whether or not each year you're going to have the same starting quarterback based on negotiations. I just think that sucks.
You know what the roster depth chart looks like at quarterback?
Probably pretty thin.
Nico. They also have Jake Merklinger, a former four-star recruit who threw for 48 yards as a freshman. He was highly ranked as a number 11 quarterback in the 2024 class. And George McIntyre, a four-star recruit who signed with UT in the 2025 class, arrived on campus, in fact, as an early enrollee from Brentwood Academy.
And look, I don't blame him or his people. I don't blame Tennessee for whatever type of reaction. I mean, like, again, it's just business. So, yeah, very interesting. I don't know how many times you can go to this well. And then, again, maybe he goes pro. He has a huge year, and he ends up going to the NFL, and it was all worth it. And then again, maybe not. And then, you know, we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, it seems like this will probably get hammered out, and it's a bit of drama headline-wise to probably force the issue a little bit publicly. And he'll be in, you know, orange and white next year and throwing touchdown passes and trying to lead them back to the playoff. But, man, it's hard to get used to a headline like that, even if we haven't seen it a ton. We've seen it enough to just be weird for the game of college football.
So, all right, that's one quarterback note. And you're going to see a different perspective of the guy that is down in Austin, and we're going to hear from Arch Manning, just a short clip from him in just a moment. So, at the same time that story popped, I had this one ready. The Ari Wasserman, we know Ari's a huge Ohio State guy, and he writes for On3. Everybody can do a list like this. Paul does his top fives on everything. And here's his top 10 quarterbacks, just for discussion and also, to me, a little refreshing. This is his list. You might have yours. Here are his top 10 quarterbacks. There's Nico, in fact, at number 10. There's our good friend we know, Haynes King at Georgia Tech at 8. There's LSU and Garrett Ross and Nussmeier. I was a little surprised he was at 7. I'd like a little bit lower. And then you have Lagway, Sellers, Arch, Mateer, Oklahoma now, Klubnik at Clemson, an Austin kid, and Sam Levitt at Arizona State.
You know, a lot of times I see these things and I'm like, oh, this guy's way off. Like, is he watching these same things? And, like, outside of maybe, like, shuffling the numbers, like, I really do think that these are probably the top 10. I mean, there's a couple guys on the fringe that I really like. I mean, Sawyer Robertson at Baylor I really like. I think that he's going to show out this year a little bit. I think Josh Hoover I really like. And that's just not, you know, like Big 12 slant there. But a lot of them just need another year in the books like they had a year ago, and they'll be right up there. But, you know, when you talk about the guys who are productive, I would put Arch Manning a little bit lower just because he doesn't have the production yet, but we know the potential. But, yeah, as far as the guys I'd want being my quarterback, I would say no. I would not say no to any of these 10 at all for any reason.
Where's Thomas Castellanos, Paul?
He is about 30th on my list of quarterbacks, so – you know, I mean, hopefully it works out well, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, as an OU fan, I hope that John Mateer's at least the 4th best quarterback in the country. That'd be great if that's the case. I think this is probably the majority of quarterback top 10 lists. I don't know if people are just piggybacking, like you see one and then you go make yours and everybody does their quarterback list, but I've seen like multiple quarterback ones in the last couple of days, so it's almost like I don't know who's following the leader or not, but, yeah, we're going to get a lot of these lists now that it's fully off-season, and I think that's pretty much the top QBs. I agree with Paul on Arch. I think it's fine to have him on the list. I'd be fine if you didn't have him on the list at all, though, until he shows a bit more, and I definitely think that 3 is, in my opinion, just way too high to start off with. I mean, can the guy at least, like, start a couple of games. I just think that's probably being nitpicky. I just feel though that's a little bit too much based on hype and not really substance just yet. But he could very well end up being the third best quarterback in the country if he lives up to a half the hype. He's probably like a top 5 quarterback in the country because the hype has been so huge.
Well, yeah, and also he's got a great surrounding cast of weapons, although younger this year. I saw a note when Sarkisian said that, he's doing well, but his guys around him are younger. He has to step up. I think he's going to have a huge year. I hope he does for his sake because he seems like a great kid. I don't think you're going to hear a story about Arch Manning. Nothing against Nico and his camp or Tennessee, but I don't think you're going to see a story about Arch Manning renegotiated his NIL deal. He has a lot of them, too.
He's got a lot of them, and he also, I think, is pretty okay compared to probably a lot of other guys in his position entering college in terms of finances. Yeah. So, that's not as much of a concern, but nevertheless, he's a guy that you're not worried about finishing out spring practice and all of a sudden having a big headline about needing to renegotiate. So that's a nice problem that Texas doesn't have to deal with their elite quarterback or just a bump in the road or whatever that may be classified as. But, I think that's about the guys. It's just a matter of the order. And I'm trying to think of Sawyer Robertson not being on there. I mean, I think you can make a case for him being on there, but having Sam Leavitt as far as Big 12 representatives go, I think is the no-brainer.
But the Big 12 has a bunch of really good quarterbacks. Is there anyone else that should
Josh Hoover could possibly be on that list at some point, but I don't blame you for not having him on there in the preseason. I think Drew Aller's a very interesting QB as far as split opinions on this guy. You talk about someone who had a lot of build-up and hasn't necessarily lived up to maybe some of the projections. I think he's firmly, on that side of the line where he's got some proving to do. I believe this year, even though Penn State was really good last year, it wasn't as much because of him as it was for other reasons, like their running backs, for example, and the defense. So I think he's a guy who's got a lot of potential, but I don't know.
What about the Pavia from Vanderbilt?
Not in the top 10, but I think he'd be in the top 20.
Top 20, yeah.
Who mentioned him? I want to give that guy credit. From Sir Blah, Blah, Blah. You mentioned, what about the Vandy quarterback? These are lists. And somebody goes, so this is a preseason hype. Yeah, you'll see 40 more. But I thought that was cool. It was cool with the Nico news and what we're going to hear for a second about Arch Manning.
Well, and depending on who it's coming from, too, and I'm not saying this about him, but I'm saying in general, like, you do have to be wary of it's just getting a reaction. That's all the purpose of the list is. It's not trying to be accurate, and we're going to see plenty of examples of that. Not saying this is that at all, because I think this is pretty much the crop of guys, but the twist of one or two or maybe a particular order is different for other people. But, there's going to be a lot of stuff thrown out there. This, though, seems to be like a legitimate try and not just clickbait like a lot of these lists typically are. One thing that does stand out to me is or a few things, but Haynes King, great to see him getting the respect that he deserves. You could argue in terms of heart, he'd be number one on this list. He's that guy in college football this year, but good to see him getting some respect. And where's old Carson Beck on this list?
No Carson Beck. Somebody mentioned him. Yeah, where's Beck? Is he just disappeared?
In terms of the investment and the hype and all of that, it's just interesting to not see him on a list like this. But I'm not saying he should be. So.
What about and I'm going to say no without even asking Craig or Paul. Somebody asked about Marcel Reed. He has a lot to prove. He was fun for that game and a half or whatever, but to be in this, maybe he is at the end of the year. That'd be great news for the Aggies. And Mike Elko, but no, I would not have him, at least not now, inside the preseason list in the top 10.
No, I made a list of just guys that, fan bases might ask about because they're above average or good quarterbacks.
Avery Johnson?
Well, thank you. Avery Johnson on that list. So Avery Johnson, Gunnar Stockton, Mendoza, who's now in Indiana, that was at Cal last year. Marcel Reed would be on the list because he won a bunch of games last year. But again, he's not in the top 10. Like, he's in the top 20 or 25 of quarterbacks, that's for 10, sure. No. Yeah, so he's not in the top 10. Mentioned Pavia, Carson Beck not in the top 10. Jalen Daniels not in the top 10. Devin Dampier, I think would be
Daniels
in the top 25.
I think Daniels not because of just still waiting to see if he could play.
Avery Johnson, all those guys are not in the top 10. They all deserve to be mentioned if you were going on a bigger list, if you were making that. But this isn't a bigger list. It's
this
top
is
10.
a top 10. Otherwise, we could list 25 or 40 quarterbacks. So there we are. Anything else to close out this topic?
No, it just makes me think, too, with the mention of Sawyer Robertson not being on here, I think you can make a case for him. I think by the end of the year, maybe he's more on this list. Josh Hoover could possibly be as well. Kevin Jennings made the playoff, but obviously had a big disappointing end of the season. I'm very curious to see how he plays this year. Not saying he should be on there either, but I do think the Big 12 has a great crop of quarterbacks this year. When you also start throwing in guys like Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati, and he shouldn't be on the top 10 either. But I just think collectively there's a really good group in the SEC, obviously, but I think also in the Big 12 there's a really good group of guys that are going to be starting this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that there's not enough yet meat on the bone, even if some of them played quite a bit. But that's why it's just a top 10 list to have fun with. It is a quarterback day today.
Mentioned Avery Johnson, Jalen Daniels, if he's healthy.
Oh, he did. He mentioned him. Yeah, but again, if he's healthy. And then what do we see? Does Baron Morton at Tech step up even more? Because he played. He's had the tweaked, cleaned out his shoulder, whatever it was. And you never know what the numbers that might be put up by others. Now, speaking of Tennessee.
That's my hang-up for Tech, actually, is Baron Morton. And I think that when the Carson Beck rumors came out, I know that all turned out to be just a bunch of playing it out, the NIL story in the media, even though he committed to Miami the very next day that story had come out, and Tech people basically disassociated themselves and said no, that was never really legitimate. But if you'll remember what I said at that time, I I don't care if it's legitimate. I would totally believe it because I do believe that that's an area where you can be better if you're looking to be elite. And so I think Texas Tech has upgraded in a lot of areas, defense, line especially on both sides. I think they've got good skill guys. I think to be elite, I think Baron Morton's got to have a really good year. And so I'm very interested to see, how that plays out.
Yeah, and Kim Coulter, 27 touchdowns, 8 picks. Must suck, huh? Talking about Baron Morton. And then Big Lubbock, I guess we're no longer a part of the Big 12. Man, I got to tell you, I love all of you. But and I'm overly sensitive at times when I see something on the chat room that might create what we're talking about in our content. But we're not going to list 50 guys. We listed some of them. You're just so quick to we suck.
Let's cherry pick. Okay, 12th out of 6. I don't want to get into it because it's not.
I don't understand that. It's so way overly please. Baron Morton, if he throws for a lot of yards and touchdowns, and they're 12-2 or whatever it is, God bless him. We'll obviously be talking about him throughout the rest of the year. Georgia and Georgia Tech. We had Tennessee, both those quarterbacks listed. They will have a home-and-home series, 26 and 27, one in Atlanta, and then in Tennessee and Knoxville, replacing that UT-Nebraska series that Matt Rule and Nebraska canceled, which pissed me off when they did that, whatever the reasons might be.
That's still kind of fun, though,
Georgia Tech, Tennessee, it's a great southeastern part. I think it's great.
Look, I actually don't think because of Brent Key that Georgia Tech's going anywhere. I think as long as they keep him and he's there, he's a damn savvy
if
coach.
I had to play and pick football coaches to be a part of my football, or play defense for me, I'm picking him.
Yeah, he's really sharp, and he's one of those guys who. He was coaching high school in Atlanta for a while and then got into college. And so he was like this real kind of under the radar guy. And then we became the interim coach. He just did such a good job. Georgia Tech's like, hey, we might have kind of stumbled onto something here. Let's not mess with this. And it certainly worked out for them so far.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, the 2026 Georgia Tech schedule now has them playing Colorado, Tennessee, at Georgia, at Clemson, all in their schedule for 2026. And that Colorado game, September the 5th, Tennessee, September the 12th. The at Georgia will be later on in the year like it typically is. But, man alive, I mean, they miss out on who might be the contenders in the ACC. But that non-conference, man, that is freaking Colorado, Tennessee, and Georgia as your non-cons. And then Mercer, just throwing them in there because the ACC plays one less game in conference play. I mean, you're not going to be saying they don't schedule tough in Atlanta come 2026. That's for damn sure.
All right, a couple more notes. Garrett, let's get to the commissioners later. All right, let's get to that later. There was like a town hall meeting about the future Power Four, the commissioners from the 4 major conferences. We'll get to that later. Arch Manning, Texas, the guy, he's QB1. He was able to play for the first 2 years a little bit. Quinn Ewers, of course, was the guy. And at times he was hurt, beat up. And Arch Manning was asked about him now and his time at Texas.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough in this age, but I hope it pays off. Like I said, there's nowhere else I want to be. I want to be at Texas. I got friends here. Love this place, so I want to be the quarterback of the University of Texas. So sometimes it's worth the wait.
He has been really good about this. You haven't seen any drama. If there was any drama, it would be that the fans at UT at times were wanting more of him than less of Quinn Ewers, which, again, Ewers took them to the semifinals and then also took them again the next year. Arch Manning looks like a tremendous talent. Seemed like about as good a kid as you could ever imagine, young man. But that was him when he was asked about the waiting game, because some would not have waited. Some would have transferred. Some wouldn't have taken that opportunity in the first place. He seems to be a very happy kid.
Yeah. Go ahead, Craig.
No, I mean, yeah, I just feel like this is becoming like a circle jerk with Arch wanting to be in Austin. It's like, yes, he clearly wants to be in Austin. He doesn't need to leave for NIL money. He likes it there. He waited his turn. Clearly, at this point, he's staying in Austin. I mean, he's about to be draft eligible. So, what's he going to do at this point? He's been patient. So I understand he's got to answer the question, but I think he's made it pretty clear. Like, yeah, he likes Texas. He's staying at Texas, but I understand the need for the media or for the fans to, in this era, you're paranoid about the star quarterback and tampering and things like that. But I don't know, man. I've just never thought twice about his commitment to Texas, and I know you've got to kind of reinforce that. But I think you're just kind of repeating yourself at this point. He's not going anywhere.
Well, he's unique.
Yes,
and I think that people don't quite understand that. Like, look, this is not a guy who came from a spot where this is the only chance he's ever going to have to see millions of dollars in his life. Like, he's from football royalty. Like, we see the Mannings on every commercial ever. Like, they're all over the place. So he wasn't going to a place for NIL because he was going to have NIL no matter what, because his name is Arch Manning. And he's not, and he also knows he has to go somewhere and earn the spot. And if he was all worried about having to wait to start, it was pretty clear with Quinn Ewers being at Texas that he was not going to start more than likely in his first 2 years unless something bad happened to or because of Quinn Ewers. So he went in knowing that this was likely is going to happen. And also, I think a lot of people don't quite realize he needed at least that first year to get used to the speed of competition. Was even a bigger jump for him because he played in a lower classification in Louisiana.
Which is what a lot of people knocked when they were hoping that he would not justify his ranking. They're like, oh, look who he's playing against, those scrubs in New Orleans.
Yeah, but he just needed the time to get the speed down. And you've seen he pretty much has, and we'll see how he does over a 12-game regular season this year. But the bottom line is he didn't walk into there thinking like, I'm going to be the starter pretty soon. I'm gonna push the other guy out the door. He knew what the score is going.
And he went in there knowing he went in there with the mindset of this is the old college football of I'm going to sit and get my time and grow up and put on some muscle, and I'm going to do the typical thing that quarterbacks did back in the day before there became this free transfer portal where I'm not starting, I'm out of here. Yeah, he's of the older mindset of like the Bryce Petty of I know what I signed up for. I want to play for this coach in this university, and no matter how long it takes me, I'm going to earn that, and I'm going to do that. And I think it's crystal clear at this point. How could it not be? But just in case you wondered, here he is again talking about it. So, yeah, Texas fans have absolutely zero to worry about if they ever worried to begin with. And for anybody hoping that he was going to, go chase a starting spot somewhere, well, he's a starter now. So why would he go somewhere now at this point? You're the starter. So, yeah, I think that's just kind of just feeding the fan base with the joy that is Arch Manning and his love for Texas.
I don't know if anyone, and I'm sure there's other quarterbacks, players, et cetera, high profile that have handled it all really well when they've had to wait their turn. The quarterback position, of course, is one that is a lot more focused on it. We will have some college basketball transfer portal news. Interesting comments from Shane Beamer at South Carolina. on some of the reporting of what they've done during spring. Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, Max Olsen of ESPN will be our first couple of guests today. Craig will be with us for the first hour and come back later because we just told him he had to. He'll be going to watch some spring practice. All right.
I haven't watched spring ball at all, so I'm going to, actually, you've been talking about, it doesn't really feel like spring because I haven't been to spring practice. So I'm going to go out to spring practice and just see what's what and just take it in, and I'm looking forward to it.
No, it's good because I haven't been out there. I one time was going to go watch a Saturday morning, but I'm sorry, I was being selfish. I went and played a round of golf that day. This is 365 Sports.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Everything alive. I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this.
It's the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive home the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo for just $36,995. Plus, Ford owners get an extra $2,000 Conquest bonus cash. Don't wait. These deals won't last long.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, joins us. Of course, mentioned this last week about his role and what he does. And, of course, the portal is about to open up and much more, which means he doesn't get any sleep at all. And we appreciate the time we get from him. And so, Sam, will the portal this year, because there's still no changes, right, in the rules or how you can do whatever you want to do. Before we do that, what are your thoughts about the report that Nico Iamaleava wants, or at least appears to want to renegotiate his NIL deal?
Seems to be pretty standard practice. It's just that it doesn't always get out. Okay. This is pretty normal at this time of year, especially for high profile players, but even for players who may be regular starters or role players or backups. This is normal for this time of year. It's just that typically we do not hear about it, because if the contract is taken care of, then the player stays and never gets in the portal and it doesn't become an issue. And if the player doesn't get what he wants, then the player goes in the portal and he goes and gets what he wants from somebody else. So it's just that the unique part about this is that the negotiation is happening in public to a certain degree, which makes it a little bit unique. But yeah, I would say even dating back to 2-3 years ago, I've heard rumors about various star players at universities who were in negotiations, and not necessarily because they were unhappy or not. It was because they were getting tampered with, because they were getting calls and getting offers from other programs. And so it's like, hey, if this program can pay me this, then, I want to renegotiate. Or in this case, Nico signed his deal, I believe, in 2022, and the quarterback market has changed quite a bit. So I can certainly understand it from that standpoint.
Sam, the leaders of college football met on Capitol Hill yesterday, and they keep begging for intervention from Congress. I wonder, why don't they just write the bill that they want for them that would not get defeated, and then have Congress just do that? Because that's what lobbies do. That's what healthcare did. That's what the NRA does all the time. Why don't the leaders of college do that?
Because I think everything that they want would get them sued for antitrust. And so that's the thing. It is a lot of the restrictions and things that they want to put on players and athletes are things that you can get if you give them employment status. But they have been adamant that they do not want to give employment status. So they're trying to find this happy medium between allowing some freedom, but putting some restrictions on without recognizing them as employees. And so I realize that employment is a slippery slope, but I do think it would also solve a lot of issues. But I think that's the biggest reason. I think it's because they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, to a certain extent. And it's really, I think that's really hard to do in the situation they're in, especially when you consider how much they've been defeated in court in the last few years.
Sam, we were talking about the lists that are starting to come out. It's the offseason. Everybody's got their list and top quarterbacks, top this and top that. Man, is this one of the Big 12 seems like it's set up for a pretty good year in terms of quarterbacks when you're looking at Sam Leavitt and Sawyer Robertson and the possibilities of a Josh Hoover and, could continue to kind of go down the names. I won't, but I know the SEC's got some strong names, Lagway and Manning, and not trying to compare the two, but do you think this is one of the better groups of signal callers that the conference has had maybe in a little while?
No doubt. You got to the guys you mentioned, like Leavitt, I love. Haven't gotten to see him in person at the Peach Bowl. I was really impressed. And you guys watched him from afar, but it's a different experience when you watch him, and to see what he did against that level of defense with the kind of speed and athleticism Texas had to be able to skate and make some of the magic that he did was really impressive. I think Josh Hoover is super underrated because TCU had such a rough start last year, and I think people kind of forgot about him nationally. They ended up a very quiet 9-4, but Hoover is one of the most productive passers in the country, and I think having him back for another year is huge. Sawyer Robertson, I think when you look at lists of quarterbacks, of top quarterbacks in the country, he seems to be a pretty trendy one to have up near the top. And I think rightfully so. Look at what happened to that team when he took over. I think once he settled into that offense, when you account for his dual threat ability, and I think just how hard the guys played for him around him, he really lifted that team. Avery Johnson is still there. I know people have issues with the turnovers and things like that, but I think he's still a superb talent. There's still a really deep level of quarterbacks in this league, and that's going to make it super competitive. Brendan Sorsby at Cincinnati is another one that I think of as another one who was a really good portal acquisition. That Cincinnati season wasn't great, but I think Brendan was a really good quarterback, and he was definitely an upgrade for them. And for them to keep him this offseason, I think was a big one. So this is definitely going to be a fun year as far as that goes in the Big 12.
You didn't mention Baron Morton, and he is a bit of a lightning rod because, I know last year he was banged up a lot. That was part of his year that you have to put in there. But just earlier, I said that one of my questions for Tech, or one of my things for Tech, if they want to live up to the hype that's been created this offseason, I think he needs to play at a higher level. And not saying he's a bad quarterback. I wasn't saying that at all. I just think he's going to make the playoff, to win the Big 12, he's going to have to be a little bit better than he was. And there's also Will Hammond, snipping at his ankles as well. What are your thoughts on Baron Morton? And would you agree or disagree with the assessment that they need him to take another step? And obviously health will factor into that.
Yeah, I think health to me is the biggest issue, because I feel like every year he's been on campus, even when he was coming in and starting as a spot starter, there was always some kind of nagging something, where there was an ankle or this or that. And so staying on the field is going to be huge. He took a big step up in his numbers last year. I think he was over 3,000 yards passing, over 25 touchdowns. He was really productive. But I do think you're right. He does have the gunslinger mentality, where he believes he can make every throw. And I think that can really work for you in some instances. And that can really hurt you sometimes, because sometimes that means you're going to force a ball in where you shouldn't. And he's also a former baseball player. He throws from all these arm angles. I think that's a real asset for him, but it also can get you into trouble, because it gets you thinking you can put the ball in where you probably shouldn't. So taking care of the ball, I think, is a big thing for him. I think staying healthy is a big thing for him. But when you look at the talent they've surrounded him with, I mean, certainly there's no Taj Brooks this year, but they still have, I think, a substantial amount of talent on the offensive side, the offensive line. I don't think he has to carry them, but certainly, yes, he does need to take a step forward, just a modest step forward, a little bit of improvement, take care of the ball a little bit. And honestly, with this kind of defensive line that you have, with the defensive front, I think the Texas Tech put together, this is a team that should be able to win games that are ugly. This is not going to necessarily be a Texas Tech team, I don't think, that has to score 50 to win. I think this is a team that's going to be able, with Shieldwood and some of these defensive players they've added, is going to be able to win some games that are low scoring. So I don't think he has to be a 5,000-yard passer and put up Graham Harrell type numbers. I think he just has to be a little bit better, take care of the ball a little bit better, be a little bit more accurate, keep progressing, and stay healthy. You do all those things, then I think you're in really good shape.
One thing he did do, he played 12 games last year. It kind of like sometimes you think that he was in and out. There were some games when he had bumps and bruises, but he did play in the 12 games. Man, the Big 12 quarterbacks, as you've said, Sam and Craig and Paul brought up,
you got Caden Salter coming in.
Yeah, I mean, just a whole bunch of them. It's gonna be fun to watch. And whoever rises to the top, there's another one, Wigman. With Houston, Jalen Daniels is another guy, right, Sam? Because man, he looks like he's got everything, all the tools, but he's another one that not Cam Rising always beat up, but somebody, if he can play every game. We had Lance Leipold on yesterday. That sure would be nice. I'm sure they would love to see him stay healthy.
Yeah, when Jalen Daniels is healthy, I think we've seen him at his peak. And his peak had Kansas winning 9 games a couple of years ago. I know Jason Bean was part of that too, but he's a really dynamic player when he's healthy and when he's full go. So he's a tremendous talent. And, yeah, you guys mentioned it. I did mention Connor Wigman, who hadn't necessarily lived up to it at Texas A&M, but I still think has a lot of gas in the tank, and I still think he has real potential. And when I look at what you plug him into that offense with what they're going to run over there under Willie Fritz and the offensive coordinator Slade Nagel, they brought him from Tulane, I think he fits that really well. They did a really good job of rebuilding the offensive line in front of him. Caden Salter, you mentioned at Colorado, I'm really intrigued by that over there. I think that's a really fascinating addition. So it is having that level of experience at quarterback is going to make some really fun battles in the Big 12 this year, and I think it's going to make it a really competitive league from top to bottom.
You know what's crazy is I was just going to mention one more thing about the quarterbacks. I mean, Jake Retzlaff, he was good last year. I don't think you'd say like elite though, but I mean he's coming back. But the fact that we don't even mention, off the top of my head at least, Noah Fafita like I would have a year ago. I'm very curious of what kind of year he has. Obviously, with a lot of heat there down in Arizona. But yeah, that's just another guy I was going to tack onto that. So big year incoming potentially.
Yeah, and I think we had heard there were some rumors going around in the winter that he might transfer out. Obviously, that didn't end up happening. I think hanging on to him is huge. Not having T-Mac's going to be obviously a big change, but that program needs a lift. And we saw what it looked like a couple years ago. Noah Fafita is very skilled, very talented. If they can surround him with talent, they can get it together. I still think there's potential there for him, certainly.
Sam, the story of the transfer portal this spring so far seems to be smaller school guys that are jumping in as opposed to maybe some big names, guys with potential. Is that really what you've seen so far outside of, Stanford, which is its own unique situation?
Yeah, there's a few different categories I feel like guys are falling into that you'll see in this portal window. One, like you said, are the guys at the FCS schools, Division II, even G5, getting in. A lot of cases, and I've talking to personnel directors and scouting directors about this, a lot of times that is a Power 4 school maybe identifying somebody at a need position. And they're like, hey, this guy has some production at the FCS level or some production at the G5 level, and we need somebody extra at that position. Let's get him to get in the portal. So that's one category where you got to have those guys. You're also going to have guys who, as you know, at this time of year, not going to make the 2 deep or not have as big a role. Maybe they get passed up. They're going to get in the portal, so you're going to get some of those guys. And then, of course, I think it's going to be a varied situation depending on the school on how many guys are going to get in that are guys who do not make the 105. And that is also a confusing layer to all this because with the House hearing recently and the idea that the 105-man roster limit could be phased in where they could possibly grandfather in the current walk-ons as opposed to making schools cut to 105 this year, that has provided some uncertainty for schools. So now schools are having to have plans. Okay, here's our plan for our roster. We have to go to 105 this year. And here's our plan for our roster if we're allowed to keep the walk-ons if that changes with the House settlement. And that not being resolved before the transfer portal is a little bit unsettling, and it's a little bit frustrating for staffs around the country because, I mean, we're talking, we're 5 months from the season, and you still don't know what your roster is going to look like from top to bottom because we don't have the settlement approved, and we don't know exactly how whether we're going to go hard 105 or we're going to phase into it over the course of a couple of years. So those are going to be the things. And then, as always, I think you're going to have a few names that pop in that are maybe good players that think, hey, I can go cash in somewhere else because I play a premium position that is really highly sought after. That the spring portal window is where people overpay because there's not as many guys getting in as there are in December. And so there's not, and if you're getting desperate, if you're getting out of spring and you're looking at your offensive line and you're like, well, we don't have 8 guys we can play. Or if you're looking at your defensive line, you're like, man, we need another D tackle. Well, then you're going to have to pony up for one because everybody else is going to be bidding for those guys too. I was talking to somebody recently who told me last year there was a guy who used to be a walk-on at a Power 4 school who played 15 to 20 snaps, and he got in the portal at 15, 20 snaps a game. He got in the portal and was getting offers like $450,000. So that's going to happen because programs have needs and there's not much time to fill them. And so if you need it, you're going to pay what you can to get it. So it's good. I don't think it's going to be as big of a big name splashes that you see in December, but there will still be plenty of activity here in the next year.
Sam, how do you keep up with everything that's going on now with that being your number one, your number one responsibility? I know there's an NCAA transfer portal. You could tell who enters or whatever.
A lot of spreadsheets.
But, yeah, how do you kind of manage all? Are you like a CPA with April 15th coming up, except it goes on?
Yeah, that's the answer. It's funny because when I sat with GMs and directors of player personnel, I'm always fascinated by how many spreadsheets they have to organize their scouting. And now that's my world, because we have, like, you know, between us, me, myself, Antonio Morales, who works for us, Manny Navarro, we all kind of help each other and try to track the portal stuff. We have a huge spreadsheet that's probably a couple thousand lines long that Manny has done a really great job of tracking, not just the names in the portal, but how many snaps do they have? How many starts have they had? And so that's an ongoing thing. I'm building spreadsheets this offseason to track every FBS school. How much are they spending in revenue share? How much are they spending in NIL? And then, you know, obviously contacts, you know, for all the different schools, you know, where my personnel contacts are. I'm going to have a spreadsheet for roster limits. How many schools are, you know, are they all going to do 85? Are there some schools that are going to do more? You know, things like that. So yeah, it's a lot of compartmentalizing. You can't do everything at once. You have to just kind of knock it down as you go through. But yeah, it's just it's a little bit of controlled chaos. And yeah, I've had to learn Google Sheets and Excel more than I ever really thought I would when I got into sports journalism 20 years ago.
Did you say there were 2,000 lines on that spreadsheet?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been more than 2,000 players going to the portal this
I
cycle,
know.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
All right, Sam, anything else, Paul? Craig? All right, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Good luck with it. It's about to just open up and just pour all over your head. And we will be watching you and appreciate your coverage and also being a part of the show every Thursday. By the way, Andrew, put Sam Kahn, same as he is on Twitter, is Instagram. We put that up, Sam. So we do have that up for you.
Thank you.
Sam, just like we are, we're trying to do that and show that a lot more. Thanks for your time. Sam Kahn from theathletic.com. Also, we'll have Max just around the corner a little bit after 4 o'clock today on 365 Sports.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to talk to Sam. It's you know, I think reassuring to hear him shed a little bit of light on the normalcy of Nico renegotiating with Tennessee or negotiating with Tennessee, and it's considered normal. I still say, while it may be considered normal, it shouldn't be considered normal. Like, I just think that the yearly renegotiating or whatever that's not supposed to be a part of college football. It is now. That's great, but can we find a better way to do that so that Tennessee's not in a situation, or any school for that matter, where if they don't meet a line, they don't lose their starting quarterback after spring ball wraps up, you know, that they've already invested multi-millions into. That's not good. That's not good. Like, pro sports would never allow that, if they could. And I get that there's different things in play in terms of what college football and college sports is allowed to do. But, count me in the camp of all for, like, ending that kind of nonsensical yearly roster massaging that you have to do. I think.
Who leaked it? Who do you
think? Probably his fam or his people, I would think so, yeah.
I wonder if it was his side or was it?
I don't see what Tennessee gains by that.
I don't know. Tennessee, that could create something that you can't pull back.
I don't think Tennessee gets anything by making it known that he's looking for money, because then you have people going, oh, really? And if they want to go and maybe pay him a bunch more money, then go, well, now they know that he's – I mean, look, I think everybody's probably always sitting there with an ear open to anything, because you'd be kind of silly not to, unless you're Arch Manning loyal and you don't necessarily need the money as far as we know. But yeah, I think you could probably take a stab that everybody's at least going to listen to you for a second. But if you know for sure that here's the starting quarterback that was in the playoff last year, even if it wasn't mostly due to him, and he's in a situation where he's talking back and forth about money, and if you at all think that maybe Tennessee's not so inclined to just meet that demand and you desperately want this guy, well, now you know there's a little bit more of an open door than maybe you thought prior to it. So, I don't see how that does Tennessee any good. It does him a world of good, except for maybe with the fan base who doesn't like thinking that he's already looking for more money, or maybe he doesn't deserve it or whatever, as natural as Sam laid out that this might be. It's still a tough thing for fans to swallow that every year you've now got to renegotiate at the end of spring ball with your quarterback to make sure he's your quarterback in 5 months. I don't think that's healthy for anybody other than the family, his own personal bank account and whoever benefits from that. But I would say for all those reasons, it's him and his agent leaking that out.
David Vu in the I hope I say that right, in the chat room So I was in work meetings when the show started. What are these kids that don't make it in the NFL going to do in the real world? You can't negotiate without performing. That's always been the case, well before the new whatever this is in college athletics, but that was the case in 1982 as well.
Here's what I hear people say stuff like that. Here's what will happen. The world will punch back. It does all the time. Life is hard, and sometimes you have an easy life or things go your way, and then circumstances change, and you think you can do the same thing you did when things were easy, and then life punches you in the face and kicks you in the nuts, and you friggin' learn.
Well, I think
that's what happens.
But yeah, I know.
So being all concerned,
David,
these kids today.
I don't think he's all concerned about it.
I don't think that's what I'm saying is it. How college athletics is allowing, just if you don't like it, you get to leave. I guess you could do that if you worked at 7-Eleven or Walmart. Is that really, are we teaching college athletes life? Maybe we're teaching it even more because they have to be told no.
You know what? They're grown men, and they're going to be fine, and they'll learn their lessons. To Paul's point. Like I think it's like we got to be concerned about what happens if, and I'm not talking to the texter, I'm talking as much to you, if anything, and just anybody who feels that way. It's like, it's not our problem. It's not our problem. They're setting them up as best they can. And guess what? The main answer is if Nico Iamaleava, now I can't say it.
You got Iamaleava.
I just said it right. You were talking over me. Iamaleava doesn't work out in the NFL. He's a millionaire. So that's why NIL is good because, hey, he might have to go drive a dumpster truck or he might be a Fortune 500 lawyer, but he's going to be well better off in the NIL era post his college playing career than he was in the previous NIL era where he would be out on the street with whatever kind of degree and maybe not much cash to show for it. Now, well, you got a little bit more time and a little bit more cushion to figure things out, and you're well better off than you would have been otherwise.
Hey,
so, yeah, we don't have to sit here and worry about.
Okay, think about before NIL, these kids didn't have the money to rely on that some of them could protect or blow or whatever.
What I just said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why when they say these kids today, we're like, all right, well, I had to learn the lesson of you can't spend more money than you have.
What?
By failing at it. Like when I was 22 and had a little money in the bank and hey, let's go out and I got drinks, ladies, let's do that. And then you're like, I need that paycheck to come tomorrow.
Yeah, they're just going to be like every other college kid who hopefully gets a job that pays well coming out of school, and maybe they don't, and if they don't, then maybe they got to wait tables or they got to do whatever. Maybe they got to eat some humble pie, but there's going to be a lot of guys who are in a much better position to eat much better pie because they got paid what they were worth in college. How much should Tommy Frazier have made at Nebraska?
$30 billion.
Let's just assume that he didn't make anything, or Danny Werfel, or whoever you want to throw out there that was a great quarterback. Cordell Stewart, I'm sure those guys got something, but not nearly what they should have gotten. And they were the ones that really went off into the real world and didn't become big-time professional athletes, that they didn't have that parachute of the $2, $3, $4, $5, $6 million they made in their 3 years that Carson Beck's made, or that any other quarterback that's worth the salt has made here lately. So it's a great thing in that regard.
Tommy Frazier didn't walk away empty-handed. He eventually tried to coach. In fact, was on the staff in college. But you're right. There are certain guys like Tommy Frazier, Earl Campbell, who are getting taken care of by their schools because they were icons. But he did not make any money to be able to just set himself up for
and that's
life.
My point, is that he would have made millions of dollars in Nebraska, and I doubt
I would have written him a check.
Right, so that's my whole point, is that he's in a much better position as a result of NIL if he's playing in 2024 than he was playing in 1994.
Absolutely, yeah absolutely. All right, around the corner, Max Olsen of ESPN.com. We'll update the Masters in about 30 minutes or so. Everybody is either done or they're on the course. It's a gorgeous day just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. I mentioned earlier the price of 30-pound bags of live crawfish is now under $4 a pound. Under $4 a pound. That's what it does. It starts at $4.50, $4.75. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. It drops. And we're only April. We got plenty of weeks left. Crawfish boil. I mentioned this the other day. I was watching a TV commercial for a grocery chain, and they always during this time they'll have a bunch of machines out in front that you can get crawfish. You can get the potatoes, corn, sausage, shrimp, and more. It's just delicious. I probably do that 5 or 6 times a year. And you could do it yourself. And if you have a crawfish boil, you're going to have one, and somebody goes, where do we get the crawfish? Well, Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco. 30-pound sacks, bags of crawfish for under $4 a pound. And on top of that, they have what you want when it comes to the butcher shop with beef, pork, poultry, and also seafood. Oh, they also have a bakery for fresh baked desserts and treats if you want those too. Fresh baked bread and kolaches every day. Cold beer and wine. Lake Air Drive, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Max Olsen, ESPN.com, college football spring transfer portal preview, team needs and more. He had that article of this week, and he joins us on 365 Sports. Max, I'm curious. You obviously cover just a whole lot of college football, everything about it, but do you watch the Masters today or tomorrow at all? Is that on your background? Is that on your radar the next couple, 3 or 4 days?
I wish I was a golfer. Honestly, I wish that was like something that had been taught to me when I was young, and that was like one of my hobbies. I'm not a golf guy, but I probably will have it on at some point Saturday and Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, just because of the views, the beauty of it. I mean, it's just the course is here. He had a hurricane go flying through that, of course, the southeast, and blew down a bunch of trees, and you can't tell. You don't know. You could go there. They had probably 200 people on every hole making sure they fixed it up because that's what they do.
Are you guys big golf guys?
Well, I am. I played this morning. Yeah.
I'm a fan of the sport. I just suck at it. So in an effort to...
Well, I can't auto race, but I like watching the Daytona 500.
In order to safeguard my rage, I quit playing golf.
I made him play with me once. I did make you. Max, I begged him. I gave him free cold beer when we finished up a show in surprised Arizona to cover the Rangers at training camp, and we went to a golf course.
He was 8 holes in.
He was drunk off.
But I was also mad. Like, I finished the beer. I didn't finish the round.
No,
I'll tell you that.
He actually went up near a pond and started saying, "Hey, alligator, how you doing? Everything okay?" That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do they have alligators?
My brother, for his bachelor party, his group went golfing, and it was the first time I'd like gone actually golfing in ever, basically. And after 4 hours, I was like, man, that was a lot of fun. I actually wish I was good at this.
Either you like it or you don't.
I could see the appeal of spending 4 hours in nature and getting drunk and having a good time with buddies, but just don't have those skills yet, unfortunately.
Well, they had the House settlement, Judge Wilkin, on Monday, and went for 6 or so hours. Really nothing yet has come out of it. Not sure when it actually will. They got to tweak it here and tweak it there. But, Max, how does that affect NILs, collectives, players, what they want, what they're allowed? Do they jam it like front load? What does that mean right now when it comes to college and NIL?
Yeah, so we talk to GMs and DPPs and people in the recruiting space. I've made a lot of calls in the last month, and the House settlement, if it is approved, then that hearing on Monday was a big day for a lot of people, as one of like, hey, maybe it could be approved on this day. Obviously, it wasn't. I think the expectation is next few weeks getting resolution on final approval on that. But I think that the way that impacts recruiting in the portal is, people, and certainly Cody Campbell and Texas Tech are a great example of this, as I wrote about earlier this spring. People have looked at this and realized, okay, starting whenever starting July 1, or really potentially starting when the settlement is approved, from that day forward, we've got a salary cap, and we have to abide by that. And that money has to last us the entire school year, not just the season, but the whole school year. And we're going to have a new enforcement arm, and that enforcement arm wants every deal over $600 reported. And if, in order for it to not count towards the cap, it has to have like real NIL, real business purposes. So it's a whole, starting from that date, it's a whole new world in terms of how the money is accounted for and all of that. And so people understood, hey, before that date, let's go spend the rest of our collective money because nobody's keeping track of it, and let's go build the best roster we can. And that's what Texas Tech did, and that's what LSU and a bunch of other programs that built great portal classes did, is we're going to spend extra money, and that collective money, we're going to pay it out to you before July 1, so that it doesn't count for the cap. And so that way we can spend way more than $15 million on our football team for 2025. Now, that's kind of a one-time thing. I don't think that's going to be an annual thing. But that was certainly a way that people tried to take advantage of this before we enter into a world where it is going to be difficult to manage the money. And I'll say this, guys, if this settlement does not pass, does not get approved, if this falls apart, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, everyone I talked to is sort of like, man, it's going to be the Wild West all over again. It's like, yeah, it's true, but these schools have committed to paying these guys in the fall. I would assume they're going to have to pay these guys in the fall. There just won't be a cap or a limit to it.
Yeah, I didn't even
so
think
all
about
hell
that.
breaks loose, right? All hell breaks, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then you do have schools that are like, all right, well, $20 million, we can do $20 million. That's no problem. And other schools going like, well,
schools say, well, we don't have that money now, or we don't have to pay that money now. I don't know, but it's you're heading towards and look, the leadership would certainly run to DC and try to get some rules made to deal with all of that. But certainly, yeah, if the settlement does not pass, what that world looks like is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, what could it look like? Like, Max, is there a default button for maybe what would be next, or just there would not be anything next?
I hope that these commissioners have a real solid plan B in the works here. And I assume it would involve going to the leadership in DC and trying to get them to pass something for them. But in terms of, everybody has been operating under like the expectations of what this looks like starting July 1. And if that settlement is not in place, at least when you talk about what does that mean for the 25 season, man, yeah, it's that would be madness, I think.
Max Olsen with us, ESPN.com on 365 Sports.
Max, What have you seen transfer portal movement-wise that interests you at all yet?
Well, I think that certainly the best player that's gone in the portal so far for the spring would be David Bailey, the edge rusher from Stanford, who went in a couple days after Troy Taylor was fired at Stanford. That turned into Texas Tech, Texas, UCLA all battling. And as was the case in December, Texas Tech was not going to be outbid. And they added him to the fold here. He's already in Lubbock. He's already going through spring practice with them. They'd already brought in Romello Height from Georgia Tech and paid him over $1 million to play the edge spot. And then, hey, why not add another, right? And as I reported yesterday, David Bailey also expected to make over $1 million. I think that you talk to people at Texas Tech, they feel like they certainly feel like they have put together the pieces here to have one of the best defensive lines in college football next season.
Well, and that's what they needed to do, right? And that they got it. They had to improve the defense.
Yeah, certainly, and they've added impact players throughout that defense. Obviously, they hired Shieldwood away from Houston and retooled that staff. So, I believe they finished last in the country in pass defense last year in terms of yards allowed. A lot of room for improvement. Hired a really good DC. It's just going to be extremely interesting to see if all these pieces can fit together and you can win 10+ games. But guys, as we go into July here, why would you not put Texas Tech atop the preseason ballot for the conference? I mean, just from an on-paper standpoint, I've even talked to staffers at other schools who've kind of agreed, like, yeah, on paper, they've probably got the most talent in the conference at this point.
Well, and this is different than when Joey took over, which he's obviously always a full throttle, the glass is half full type of person, because they kind of put themselves out there. He even said that, and they were better, and he's done well. His 3 now plus years that he's been there.
3 years.
Yeah, but this team here, they seem to have dudes that win big games. We had this conversation. Paul and Craig just went to practice to watch it for a little bit. So there was a list of the top 10 quarterbacks coming back in college football, and as you know, ESPN will have one, and theathletic.com will have one, among everybody else. But there was a list, and it named 10 players. The only one in the Big 12 that was listed, I believe, was Sam Leavitt at Arizona State. But there are so many others that if we see enough meat on the bone, is Jalen Daniels going to be able to play a full season? We mentioned Sawyer Robertson because of how the last 2/3 of the season went for him, among others.
Yeah.
Sorsby. We didn't mention Baron Morton, and we had a few people go, hey, he had a pretty good year. And he really had a good year. But the top 10, that's a different deal. They seem to have the quarterbacks that Max should make this a league that should be very competitive. Not just competitive because they're even, but competitive inside that top 10 or 15, don't you think?
100%. I think you look across the conference, and it's a ton of returning guys, and you can almost say, like, man, you left some pretty good ones off there, Smokey. I mean, you got Rocco back to the Iowa
Absolutely.
State.
Fafita.
Yep. Yeah, Fafita can kind of bounce back, and that they've got a new OC there. Obviously, they lose T-Mac, but
Wigman.
New OC there, a lot of new pieces. You've got Jake Retzlaff still at BYU.
Absolutely.
You've got Avery Johnson. You've got. I think that the kid that Utah picked up, Devin Dampier, was one of the best quarterbacks in the group of 5 last season.
Yep.
And just a really dynamic dual threat player. So yeah, that's actually kind of one of the intriguing things about Texas Tech is, like, man, you've added everywhere except quarterback, and Baron Morton has dealt with injuries, and obviously he's limited this spring by injury. Can you get 12 great games out of him? Right? I think that's going to be, and I know they really like Will Hammond and they like some of the depth there. But yeah, I think that's going to be an intriguing part is can we see Baron Morton play at an all Big 12 level? Because you're right. And even did we say Josh Hoover? TCU loves Josh Hoover. I think they really feel like he's got a lot of it factors. So it's a pretty awesome year across the board for the conference. And Colorado's got Caden Salter, who's been really productive. So it's like I'm not sure if there's like who's got a bad quarterback situation in the conference. Oklahoma State has got a pretty wide open one. UCF is going to roll with Taven Jackson from Indiana, I believe. I think West Virginia's a competition, but yeah, across the board, I think you're going to expect really high level quarterback play pretty much every week from these teams.
I mentioned Wigman going from A&M to Houston, which obviously upgrades what they have, and so it's golly, it's going to be
and they, I know Neil Brown's staff liked. I know they liked Marichal there. Marchial, I'm sorry, saying his name wrong. We'll see how Rich Rodriguez handles the battle there, but I mean, they've got a couple guys there that have some starting experience. So, yeah, I'm not sure anybody feels like they're really disadvantaged. And I think you guys are right. Like you mentioned at first, like a healthy Jalen Daniels, who like kind of is back in his flow of things.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly could be one of the most productive in the conference too. So, and I think Leavitt, just watching him live in Atlanta against Texas, I was blown away by that kid. That kid is really dynamic.
Yeah,
So, it's going to be a fun year, and I think Texas Tech has certainly stacked the deck here. But they're even in talking with Joe McGuire, he has definitely acknowledged to me, like, man, there's 3 or 4 other teams in the Big 12 you feel like are really set up to have a really great year.
Sam, Max, who is this year's Colorado the way Deion's first year went when he had so many different players that he added from the portal? Is it Rich Rod at West Virginia? Is he among those that have added the most this year so far?
Yeah. West Virginia and UCF probably, obviously going into year one there. But West Virginia would be the one that stands out to me as, they've added a ton of starting experience. They've added a ton of snaps to that roster. Rich Rod, big overhaul there. He's brought some guys with him from Jacksonville State. West Virginia lost some pretty legit players to the portal this offseason, during that coaching change, with CJ Johnson going to Ohio State, Hudson Clement going to Illinois, lost some good defensive players there too. So it's definitely a bit of a reset there. And I know Rich Rod has come out and said they need to add a lot more this spring too. In fact, they went out and cut 22 guys on Monday, or moved on from 22 guys from their roster on Monday. So big roster crunch there, and trying to get to the 105 and trying to add a lot of new players. But big overhaul there. I'd say UCF has added a lot, and Oklahoma State. That's a fascinating situation there in Stillwater for Mike Gundy, who kept his job but replaced all of his assistants. Has brought in a lot of new talent. Has brought in a new quarterback in Haas Haney. Will that all fit together there, and will they get back to being competitive? That'll be pretty interesting to see too.
Max, we appreciate it. Sam, he's obviously a great friend of yours in the business, and you guys worked together for a long, long time. He mentioned, I asked him this question. I'll ask you the question. How in the hell do you keep up with all this?
Spreadsheets. Just
that's what
volumes and volumes of spreadsheets.
Like on your wall? Do you have like an architect desk? Where does it go?
No, just a bunch of different Excel spreadsheets that we're just updating all day, every day. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. It's pretty low tech. But yeah, that's kind of how I keep track of who's going where, and pretty pretty time consuming. But we've reached the point now where it's just like 2,000, 3,000 guys going in. Like it's just easy for a lot of guys to slip through the cracks there if you don't.
Do teams allow you, listen, we know that, for example, when a college player or a prospect visits or he's going to commit, there are schools that will maybe give you a heads up, whether it's me, you, Paul, Craig, whoever, right? When it's about someone's about to commit or whatever. Yeah, it's like an unwritten rule. You don't do that. Maybe an NCAA rule. I don't know. But I'd get a text, and hey, by the way, do you get heads up on those entering the portal, or is it only when you see it officially online in the portal?
The heads up on entering the portal nowadays with kind of how it, at least kind of how it was in December and January, the heads ups are kind of coming from the agents now.
Okay. Okay.
It's not so much, sometimes you'll hear from people on coaching staff, hey, this is about to happen, but more and more of these guys are hiring agents to help deal with their portal recruitments, and those agencies are messaging reporters to let them know, hey, this person just went in or is about to go in or whatever. Yeah, I think that's honestly, guys, that's just a big part of this game now. Those guys or those agents are competing for all these players and trying to maximize their value and the attention that they get and all that, and so. Yeah, certainly a lot of contacts that in personnel departments across the country. But certainly agents have taken over a lot of control of this stuff in terms of the information.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time. Max Olsen with us on Thursdays, most every Thursday, depending on what's going on in college football. But sometimes because of children, there's that. Paul, you will.
I don't have any children.
I know. I'm just saying that when you have them, that you're.
I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I'm an old man now.
You really are.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in your mid-40s.
Yeah, I'm
Your birthday's in a couple of weeks?
It's a week from Saturday.
Why do you have to brag about it? I mean, wait till you get to be my age.
Yeah. No, I'll be thrilled if I get to your age.
That's 20 years or so.
I know. Yeah, I
That's
know.
a long time. I don't know.
The asteroid could be coming. I don't know.
All right, Garrett Ross is running our mothership as he does, and Andrew Valade, the silent assassin, jiu-jitsu. He's doing what he does. I see every once in a while something that's kind of, it's not jiu-jitsu, though. It's kung fu?
Oh, it's jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu, okay. He puts out these little clips, and we appreciate that. And, hey, by the way, this is what's going on. This is when Emery Winter, just such a kind young man. Gentle.
He really is. Although he's got a saucy side to him.
Oh, my God, I know. I've learned that, yeah.
He can be sassy like a real housewife.
What was the one when and it's been recent. Oh, it was when I accused him of having a hangover.
Yeah.
And isn't that right? Isn't that what I did? And then one day, was I running late or something?
You couldn't make it because your back was hurting.
And what did he say?
He said, sounds like a hangover.
Saying, yeah, just smart ass.
Yeah.
Jeez. You know, you give kids so much, and they're just not as, they're not thankful. I bet jiu-jitsu's really thankful because I gave him a nickname. We don't have one for Emery. What's Garrett's nickname? Garrett, what is your nickname?
G-Money.
G-Money? Is it really? I didn't know
Q.
that.
Gave him that
Q gave me that a while
Did
back.
he really?
Yeah.
QQ? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Craig is the dragon. Yeah. What is yours?
The Italian stallion. You know what? We'll change it. I'll be the Italian scallion, like a little onion.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, there you go.
The Italian scallion.
You know, when you watch cooking shows, and I watch them all the time, I love them. I never can remember all the different seasonings and stuff like that, but I remember them all the time. We'll have Eric Morris of North Texas here pretty soon. You have scallions, you have green onions, you have onions, right? What is it? There's another larger onion that I watched the other day with, I forgot who was cooking. It was the crazy.
Shallot?
Huh?
Like a shallot or something?
Yeah, scallions. Shallot. It was.
No, shallots are little.
It's got EEL in it. EE is a part of the word of the onion.
I don't know.
I
just go sweet onion, yellow onion, red onion.
I like the white onion because that's got
onion,
sweet onions are great, and of course in Texas we have them everywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean it varies on what I'm cooking.
Leek, Sandra, thank you. Have you ever had?
Yes, I've had leeks.
Okay, what's the difference between a scallion, a leek, and onion?
I mean, an onion is bigger. You know, a scallion is like part of.
No, that's
the
like a root.
Is the root? Yeah. So
the green onions that you have to peel that little film off of it, Tom.
Yeah.
At the front, the little white, the bulb part of it. Now, when we come back, Eric Morris of North Texas, not that far around the corner. He's the head coach there. I was given a heads up. We're going to talk about, of course, the Mean Green. We're going to talk about North Texas football. But how many calls has he had to take from people wanting to know about Cam Ward? How many? Probably hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds. People kind of getting this and that about Cam Ward. We'll have that and more. Justin Rose today, by the way, still on the course, is 8 under at Augusta National through 16. Scotty Scheffler, a two-time champion, defending champion, is at 4 under along with Corey Connors, Tyrell Hatton, Roy McIlroy just went to 4 under through 13. He just had about a 2-footer for a birdie on the par 5 on you're not calling it the back 9, on the second 9 at Augusta National. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor Coffee Beans with the best cigars in the world inside their large humidor, 48-foot walk-in humidor. There's 2 different doors. It's so large, you walk in, and you have this massive shelf, boxes and boxes and boxes, containers of cigars. And then on top, at the very top, they have a bunch that have not even been, they haven't been opened. So you could buy an entire box if you want to of Arturo Fuente or whatever cigar you might like. I love Rocky Patel. Kim Coulter once did something for my oldest brother, Robert, when he was struggling. In his last year, we had a birthday party for him. And he got Rocky Patel. Here's Rocky Patel, the namesake himself, who signed a lot of like collectible stuff to Robert from Rocky Patel, from his others that work with him and family members, sent it to him on the East Coast when we were there back in July of last year. And it was, you know what? It was heartwarming that he took the time to do that. Kim knows him with some things that he's done with Kim, events that he's hosted, and his outdoor kitchen, which I still, one of these days, I would love to have that if I could. So they are, I like Rocky Patel anyway. The Rocky Patel Torpedo Edge Light. They have all the cigars, 48-foot walk-in humidor. To the right, there's a wall with the veterans, military, and Texas brands of cigars, too. Vita Dreams for CBD gummies if you want a little assist to going to sleep at night, but you don't even feel like you're doing it. Just all of a sudden, you kind of just crash without being like, oh, my God, boom. No, it's not like that. It just calms you down, but it's not really like you're high. It's not. I'm telling you that. I was a little worried about that when I first started taking them. They work all the time. And if you really have chronic pain, it's called for bad days. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans with Cheyenne and Joshua in between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
You know, so much talk about spring football this year because of ideas that some didn't want to have games, and then you had the schools that started saying, hey, how come we don't scrimmage against each other or take advantage of that? It was too late in the day or the calendar to do that. North Texas Reps, theirs up this weekend, and we're joined by Eric Morris, the head coach at North Texas, with us. He's been with us before. Paul Catalina, David Smoak on 365 Sports. We had Lance Leipold on yesterday on Tuesday, I think it was, from Kansas. And I asked him, I said, did you pretty much get what you needed, at least for the most part, done? He said, it's almost like when you ask a coach on National Signing Day, do you like your class? And every coach normally, and you do, but every coach, Eric, always says, yeah, we got everybody we wanted. And you kind of like, that's just the standard default answer. Have you had a successful spring?
Yeah, I think so far. I think we're on the right track. I don't think we're quite ready yet to go out and compete in conference play or pre-conference play. I think there's a couple things that need to come together. I think this day and age, especially at the G5 level, being able to put together almost a new roster each and every year is something that's been super important. Used to the old days of retain and develop these guys is something that's just changed. And I think we're still in the developmental mode, and that's more important now through the spring process, just because you're going to have a bunch of new prospects on your roster, and sometimes you're not going to be able to retain some of your better players and some of your young better players, but really like what we were able to put together as far as bringing in some guys to help mid-year transfer portal wise, signed a really good class high school wise. I mean, we played 9 true freshmen last year that played a ton of reps for us. So really looking forward for those guys making a jump, and then getting Coach Cassidy over here from Sam Houston was huge for us. And he was able to bring, 8 of his players with him, and 7 of those guys were starters for him at Sam Houston. So I think that's helped a ton for us this spring, and those guys, knowing the defense, knowing the expectations of how we practice, what we're trying to get accomplished has been big for us. So we're close right now. I think we have a few missing pieces right now that we need to put together in the second portal window, and but we're well on our way to I think putting together a pretty good squad for the 25 season.
Chandler Morris transferred to Virginia. You had to replace him. I know Reese Poffenbarger comes in. I know you've got a couple of freshmen. How do you feel? One of your guys is about to be the first pick in the draft. You're a quarterback guru, Eric. We know this about you. You confident about that position going in?
We'll run somebody out there that can complete a forward pass. I promise you that much. Yeah. So, I think the quarterback room holistically is better than it's ever been here. I think we have 3 guys that are competing their tails off this spring right now. I mean, it's been really fun to see, Reese come in as an older guy that 2 years ago, had great success at Albany, led the FCS in a lot of different categories. Then you throw, Reese right behind him. You got Drew Messamaker, who's, one of the coolest stories in all of college football, I think, right now. I mean, a guy that hadn't started a game at the quarterback position since 9th grade B team. And then comes out, and it was something that he's practiced so well for us, for 6 months. And he's a guy that won the backup job in fall camp last year and beat out 2 other scholarship guys. And we thought he deserved it. So he got a ton of reps throughout the season. We were able to kind of develop him, and then practice so well in bowl prep to watch him go out there and actually execute it and have some game footage of him actually being able to do it on the big stage was so cool for me to see. I mean, he's a great young man. I think in this day and age in the transfer portal, he went through a hard situation in high school where they brought in a quarterback his senior year when he was slated to start. And, something he didn't pout about it. He went to the coach and asked, hey, can I move to safety and be the punter so I can help this team out? And so really have been shocked to see his progression. I mean, I think he's a guy that has the ability to play football for a really long time. So really like Drew's progression right now. He's had a ton of reps in this thing. And then bringing Chris Jimerson in, who I think is way ahead of schedule right now. I mean, a kid that should be in high school. He's played a lot of football, starting all 4 years at North Crowley, to watch the run they went on this year.
Yep.
To be able to beat Duncanville, DeSoto, Westlake, all these stacked teams, all, in the same year is super impressive. So we believe in him at quarterback. And I think he's shown us in a short amount of time that he's more than capable of being an elite quarterback at this level.
Yeah, that you just ripped off about like the latest lineage other than North Shore, right? In high school football with the names you mentioned with Duncanville and then DeSoto, obviously with Westlake as well. On the Master Maker, he's from Vandergrift, right? And I've done some midway broadcast That's a fantastic high school program. I think their coach, did he just not retire? I don't want to say that, but that's a really good program. What does it mean? It doesn't mean you're automatically a good quarterback, but coming out of one of those programs like that.
Well, I mean, I think this is a unique one. I mean, Drew's a guy that there was a guy that was a baseball Baylor commit that was, the starter for the 2 years before him. And so that guy kind of had earned his job and did nothing to give it up. And so Drew was kind of in the wings to come and show what he could do as a senior. And then, they have an offensive coordinator move in that, his son is a quarterback that's a 4-star that's committed to Louisville, I believe, at the time.
Yep.
So there was so much that went into it. And Drew believed that summer and through fall camp that he was fighting for the job. And it was just one of those situations where he didn't get a play. And had a buddy of mine that told me about him that had seen him throw. So we had a walk-on spot open and was able to watch, Drew throw that spring and kind of shocked me. The kid's 6'4.5", 220 pounds, can run. He squats over 500 pounds, super strong guy, athletic. And so he had all these tools and attributes, a smart kid. And so we were kind of blown away once we saw him start putting it all together when we got out on the film in fall camp last year, and he just continues to progress. And so yeah, I mean, super excited about the potential of Drew and Chris. And like I said, I mean, I think nowadays, if you have 3 good quarterbacks in your room, I mean, you got a good situation at hand. And so, we don't operate with 5 scholarship guys like you did in the older days. I mean, I think with the moving and shaking of that room every single year, you want to have 3 guys that you trust. And I like, kind of the spatial, how we've spaced them out in classes right now.
Eric Morris, head coach at North Texas, with us on 365 Sports.
What is different for you as you prepare for each season from year one to now? Does it feel different, or is there a comfort level that you've established, or is it, given the fact that you guys never stop working, it's hard to be comfortable?
No, I think that you gain some confidence, and you have to grow and learn from your mistakes in any kind of profession you're in. And I think if you're not doing that, then you're not maximizing your potential. And so I think, the familiarity now that we have with the American Conference, I think that was one thing our first year, North Texas was making the jump at the time. All the tape from the year before was Conference USA, and all of a sudden we're moving into a new conference. And so didn't know how we were going to stack up, from a resources standpoint, from just a skill set standpoint. Are we big enough? Are we strong enough? Are we fast enough? How do we match up with these teams? And I thought those first 2 years, I think with the top half of this league, I think we needed to get better in the trenches, up front on both sides of the football. And that's something that we focused on. Now, as you guys know, it's hard to retain those guys, from our first year here. Our left tackle starts at Texas Tech. Our left guard starts at Oklahoma. Our center starts at Mississippi State. Our other center just went to Kansas. So, it's hard to continue to do it, but I think we've kind of found a recipe and not only, recruiting our high school guys, developing them, but also a recipe on what transfer prospects that we brought in, how have we been successful in the portal? What's our niche in the portal? And so I think I have familiarity with the conference more so than what I did year one. And then learning how to navigate the portal and the high school kids at this level, at this school, has been something I think we've grown in those areas. And so super excited about this squad. I think this should be our most complete squad. Not say this is, we're better at these certain positions. We have some unproven people at certain positions, but I think just our depth and an amount of production that we're returning right now. And especially if you take into account, the guys on defense coming over from Sam Houston, what they were able to do last year.
Eric, does it help that you're a Texas guy, that you've coached in Texas, you played college in Lubbock, and where you are now and where you were at Incarnate Word? I know you went to Washington State for a short stint, but does it help that you are one of the states when you go to recruit high school football?
I think just in high school, I think and depending on the situation, I think you find situations where it helps a lot, and then you find a situation or two where really it doesn't carry as much weight. And I think, we went a little bit heavier in the portal this year. And I think, the portal has turned into, our visits used to be 2 days and they're elaborate and you wine and dine them, you show them all the facilities, you take them through everything. And I think nowadays the kids, they want to know the coach, meet the coach, do we jive personality wise? They want to see the system. What are we going to ask them to do in the system? And they want to know how much money they're going to make. And I think you can shorten it down and they don't care about, some of the resources or some of the facilities. And I think those things, can obviously, I don't think they hurt you in any way, but I don't think that's the factor in a bunch of these decisions that kids are making right now. But at the end of the day, it's still about opportunity, because we've had a lot of kids that were great players here at North Texas that have chosen to leave for more money somewhere, and it's killed their career, and they haven't gotten on the field and their production has gone down. And the majority of them has probably been that way, to be honest with you. We've had a couple that, I think have had some success and hopefully will have a chance to continue their playing career. But the majority of them, it's been something where now they're going to a backup role or lesser role and not used the same way. And so yeah, I think, some of those things are hard to explain to a 19, 22-year-old, especially when you start involved in money in the conversation. But yeah, I think to your point, I think in high school, there's definitely a lot of situations where my dad being a high school head coach, me having great relationships in this state with high school coaches pays huge dividends for us. But there's a bunch of times where it really has no effect on it. And we got to do a great job building relationships with kids and making sure they fit our program.
Do you, you mentioned, all that you said about, trying to convince kids about, this, you might not start there. It's also, isn't that one of the hardest things? Like, okay, now I coach this kid to be confident. I don't want to tell him not to be so confident, but like, it does kind of bite you in the butt a little bit, doesn't it? Because like, oh, he's confident. He doesn't think he's not going to start. You want that confidence in your players, but sometimes the reality of a situation is hard to explain.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the more this becomes a business, and, I think every single day, like, these kids are going to be able to be rewarded for doing certain things well on Saturdays. And they're going to have to approach it that way each and every day. And so, yeah, I hate at some point, I got into this business because I love helping people, meet their potential and do some things they never thought was possible. I love to see the evolution of kids and them achieve great things. And so, sometimes it's hard for me because, I'm still a little bit old school and loyal and things, but at the same time, if somebody was offering me crazy amounts of money in college when I was 18, 19 years old, I don't know what decision I would have made. So I think, every year now, and especially at the group of 5, it's about putting together the best roster for that year. And I think we have to get over our feelings and know that some kids might go to, a situation that they think better their or their family's life. And we have to get that. But my job ultimately is year in, year out to put the best product on the field. And that's changed. It's changed from what it was 10, 15 years ago. And so we have to do a great job of learning how to navigate these different situations that come up. And the cool thing is, I think everybody at our level is dealing with this same problem. So it's not just a North Texas problem. Everybody's going to have to deal with the same thing. But ultimately, we want guys to be successful. I want my players to be successful. I want my coaches to be successful. Same thing. We've lost a lot of great coaches here that have left here for more money and better opportunities for their families. And so at the end of the day, I think that I love watching people be successful. And sometimes, that might be here, or it might be somewhere else.
Are there times, Eric, you hear about tampering, and North Texas is going to be a place that probably gets hit. We've talked to other coaches from the American Athletic Conference and others. I think it's everywhere. But has there ever been a time where you were tempted to, when something was going on, that you wanted to pick up the phone and call a coach that was crossing the line?
Yeah, I've done it before. Yeah, okay. I've done it for sure. There's no doubt. And I think that, the bigger problem I think right now in this whole thing is agents. And I think that these agents are in for money grabs. And so although there's certain situations where maybe a couple kids do need agents, that we're getting into that type of money and for them to look over what these kids are receiving. But what I hate is, that some of these agents for my players are reaching out to other programs and asking if they're interested in this, and then asking what the market value is for that. And so that's become more of an issue, in my opinion, is the agents being able to work behind the scenes. They don't have any repercussions for any of these rules that are going on right now. So, I know coaches are doing it. I know recruiting staffs are doing it. I know people doing it by getting a hold of high school coaches and going through different channels. But at the end of the day, because what hurts for me is if I know, a kid that's going to be a starter here, and he's making, a good chunk of money while he's playing college football, is being recruited to be a backup somewhere. And especially in this late portal window where a kid's going to get there late, he's not going to be on the field. And that agent just set that kid up for failure, and that kid could possibly not ever play football again. And I've just seen it happen with my kids here. And so, that's become the biggest issue, in my opinion.
The American Athletic Conference is really good. It's deep. There's a lot of teams, and I know you got other things you need to do, and we appreciate your access today. It is a really good conference. How good is it?
Yeah, it's been fun for me to navigate this conference. I mean, I think the coolest thing about it is I think you get a little bit of everything in this conference, which makes it unique. I mean, next year on the schedule, we're going to play 3 triple option teams. I mean, we got Army, Navy, and then, Rice is now in the spread option gun stuff, which I'm, thankful that we play them later, because, I don't know what that's going to look like, and it'll take us studying that. And then I think it was actually a good move for Rice to be able to do something a little bit different. So we see those, I think you got Tulane, who's done such a great job, who's going to be a little bit more traditional and put big tight ends in, have a big defensive line. They really value running the football. They really value playing great defense. You got what Jeff Traylor's been able to do in his, short little tenure at UTSA. He's been nothing but phenomenal. His teams are always tough as nails. They're, South Florida, I think, investing more financially than anybody in the conference. They're trying to make a push to get into the Power Fours, have great resources with great players in Florida. Memphis has done a great job, the last 4 or 5 years. I think, even more, probably the last 10 years, of really being able to find elite talent that have gone on to the next level. East Carolina is a great, historic program that has great fan support. So, yeah, I mean, you just look down at, Tulsa's had their runs. There's just so many UAB. There's a bunch of great teams and really cool cities to go see these venues. So I've thoroughly enjoyed my time in this conference. And I agree, I think is the best, group of 5, group of 6, whatever you call it, conference. And Boise obviously had a great year last year, but if you look back and if you would have done the playoffs the way they're doing it now for the last 6 or 7 years, the American team would have been the one that got in there. So that's something we got to get back to, and to get a chance to go to the playoffs one day. I think something that we all look forward to in this conference.
Well, at least you have a chance, right? I mean, because of the new format of 12 teams, I mean, Boise got in. I mean, and it was great to see that happen. And I know God knows, I know you've taken thousands of calls and texts or whatever, people wanting to pick your brain about Cam Ward. Obviously, he's a great talent. How often have people hit you up to get your feedback on him from the time when you coached him at Incarnate Word?
Our SID, our poor SID guy, every single day. And it's not just from, the West Columbia, beat writer down there. I mean, these are all national outlets, obviously, with him projected as being the number 1 pick, and then being a 0-star recruit, and obviously, blossoming and using this transfer portal to kind of move up the waves, be on the national stage the way he was this year at Miami, perform at such a high level. Some of the uncanny resemblance of a Patrick Mahomes type of player, of the style that he plays with. I think it's a really cool, interesting story, right? And so I think people want to dig into, do a deep dive on what made him special. What did I see him? How did everybody else miss on him? How does a guy go from Incarnate Word to the number one pick of the draft? And so, Cam's a fighter. He's a competitor. He walked in my office the first day he showed up on campus. We had a returning All-American quarterback, and he said, "Coach, I'm going to be the starting quarterback here next year," and shut the door and walked out. And so, so confidence is something that Cam Ward has never had a problem with, even before he had even a touch of success. I do tell people I think COVID was awesome for Cam because he got pretty much a whole year to prepare and learn how to play in the gun, learn our reads, because he'd never done that in high school. And so I think he had a unique way of slowly getting introduced to the game, playing a 6-game shortened season in the spring. And then, obviously he's able to light the world on fire as a freshman there at Incarnate Word. And so, but I think with him having that preparation that year was crucial to his development.
Paul, want to wrap it up with him?
There were games I watched, watching him through his career, towards when he started to get buzz and you guys got some time on, people say, hey, you watch this Cam Ward, then Wazoo, then, of course, at Miami last year. Look, Miami did not have a defense that they could rely on. And there, by the grace of Cam Ward, is between them and a double-digit win season. He was so good and such an amazing leader. He does, like you mentioned, that confidence. That story doesn't surprise me, given the fact that there were situations like, hey, we just blew a lead. You've got 90 seconds. Go fix it. And he would just It was like they said, oh, this is the most fun thing I could possibly do. He's having a blast.
Yeah, the cool thing for us, we didn't have a lot of film evidence on Cam of playing in the gun in our system. There was, he was in a tee, and there was some cool play action where you could see the arm talent in high school. Obviously, he was great at our camp where we fell in love with him. But, the cool thing about Cam was recruiting him and watching him play basketball. And he was such an elite basketball player. And I think that's why he's so good at filling people around him, manipulating people in short space areas. Why he's so great in the pocket is he can feel those things. And he was an incredible basketball player. He's all-time leading scorer in West Columbia history. Great scorer, great passer, facilitator. You could see his leadership qualities, his competitiveness. And so I think that's kind of the place where we fell in love and we're like, okay, like this kid has all these traits that we want.
Yeah, you did a hell of a job finding him because, like you said, not many people knew about him. You didn't even know much about him. Love the stories about him. Really like what you're doing, Eric. We appreciate your time. Good luck this year. Hope to talk to you maybe during before you start practices in August. And thanks for your time today.
God bless you guys. Go Mean Green.
Yes, sir. Eric Morris. They're expected to be really good. Think about his history now with what he's done. Incarnate Word, Washington State. And then now with what he's doing at North Texas, they were 6-7 last year. The AAC is really, really a good conference. And the fact that he was a feisty, typical Texas Tech slot receiver, with under the Leach system. He obviously was a coach on Leach's staff, and then with Cliff Kingsbury too. And just really have enjoyed what he's done as the head coach. Thanks a lot. For Doug Walters for setting that up for us.
I didn't quite realize until he said that Rice was going to an option system, which actually makes sense because, the reason that Army and Navy do that is because it's really hard for them to find quarterbacks who at all want to play quarterback at the NFL level, and again, and you have, like, you can't just apply. Like, I can't just apply to the Naval Academy. It's a process. Even if you get a scholarship there, they have to make sure, they can't just recruit anybody. They got to get the, the appointment from the senators and all those different things. So, Rice doing that, I think, is really, really clever because, how do you cut out maybe some of the growth level or the things you have to do, given the fact that you are Rice and you're this great academic institution, but you're not going to have as much access to the same level of talent as everybody in your league. Make it a pain in the ass for them to prepare for you.
Yeah, just like the military academy.
Yeah. It's everybody's going to have to, for 1 week, learn a new thing.
Not sleep on the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to teach the scout team that. Then you have to watch it, practice.
With as many teams in that conference that run it.
Yeah. Well, theirs is going to be different though. They're in the gun
you're right.
But
you're right.
But see, it helps, but you don't. But even still, you got new guys every year, right? And especially now, you have all new guys. So everybody does it. So, okay, you play Army and Navy in 1 year. Great. So now, when we play the first one, the second week will be easier. But then next year, 19 guys leave that were all going to be your best players. None of the rest of them have ever played Army or Navy. And you're starting back, at square one every single time.
Well, remember, we've had coaches that say they absolutely, if you have an option team on your schedule, even if it's just one military academy, you have to spend almost a week during the summer working on that.
Yeah, and the only way to make sure that the scary thing is that team has a really good defense and keeps it in the box, and you have to, because they can't catch up to you if you get far out ahead. So you need like a 17 to 21 point lead early in the game to where you can be like, oh, it doesn't matter what they run anymore. Like, we're fine. But lately that doesn't happen as much. They're just so fundamentally sound. It's
Remember
tough.
when Army went into Norman?
Yeah.
And Oklahoma was like, they were dead to rights, it seemed like, because they like 40-some minutes of time of possession.
Yeah.
So if they get the lead in the ball, it's like a team that runs like Princeton or somebody from the Ivy League in basketball. If they get a lead, you're screwed because they're going to milk. That's not they're playing like the Hoosiers, but they're going to make every possession methodical, and 4 points equals 8.
Yeah.
And you just, it make you start to panic a little bit. Thanks to Eric Morris. Doug Waters, the SID Media Relations Football Director of Media Relations at North Texas. We appreciate his time. Craig is out for a little bit longer. We have more to come, including John Cooper. He'll join us a little bit after the 5 o'clock hour from Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. We also have Paul's Top 5 about an hour from now. When we come back, John Cooper, anything new this week? What's going on this week? What came out of the Colorado, what did he call it? The showcase.
The showcase.
As we, what maybe some intel that he got. All that and more. And this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. And they do too. They do. The fastest growing pizza brand in America. 5 locations where we are in the Waco, Texas area, where we broadcast from in Central Texas. 5 locations, Belle Meade, Robinson, Woodway, Hewitt, and also in China Spring. My favorite, Marco's Pizza, is the triple pepperoni and sausage magnifico. And since sometimes, you're talking about just protein on top of the pizza. And I'm a thin crust guy. I don't know when I started that, but I like the thin crust. I like a little crispy. And so it is loaded. And they can do that for you. And, of course, they have the triple pepperoni magnifico. You can go online and get that along with much more at Marco's Pizza. Bob Mock is the owner, has been in the pizza business for a long, long time. When I was a senior in high school, I did some construction stuff, like as just a high school kid. You're out in the sun, moving things when houses were being built, heavy stuff to kind of stay in shape, get some sun, got paid well. But my first really opportunity to work was when I was delivering pizzas back when I was a senior in high school. And I enjoyed it. Then got to a point where I could make them and not run the store because there was an owner, but I really enjoyed the business. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at Baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 27
26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
All right, so I'm watching the Masters. And mentioned that Justin Rose, what a round that he had today. Just almost, well, basically it was flawless. And then you've got guys that are hanging around, right? Including Rory McIlroy. He had a beautiful round going. He was 4 under par. And he gets to 15, hits a gorgeous drive, hits his second shot past, on front of the green. It rolls through the green. That's okay to the back part. You pitch it. He pitches it back onto the green going back towards the Race Creek. Pitches it through the green into the water. Has to go back across to the fairway. Chip it on the green. He chips it to the fringe in front of the bunker on the right-hand side, and he's about to just throw up on this particular hole. I think he's going to end up with a double. He'll still be 2 under, and he'll still have holes left, but he does this. He is so unbelievably talented, but this is the one tournament. Remember when he was winning a few years back, he duck-hooked the drive on 10 into somebody's backyard. This is the one that it has gotten away from him. And it's an awful mistake. Listen, I just shot 81 this morning because of bad mistakes and a couple of double bogeys, but I'm not Rory McIlroy. You cannot chip the ball. You know that if you go past the hole on that with a pin front right, it's going in the water. That's what he does. And it's just such a great hole, and it's a great course. So there we are with Justin Rose. What a round for Justin Rose. I mean, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. It is. He, he's never won this thing.
65, he's 7. No, he's won a major. He's 7 under. Corey Connors, who's that? Emery?
Yep.
Emery, Corey Connors, and Scotty Scheffler, the 2-time champion, defending champion. Won it 3 years ago, then last year 2. He's at 4 under. They're done. Tyrell Hatton is 3 under, done. Aaron Rai was at one point, I think, 4 under early. He's at 2 under, done. Harris English and Jason Day are 2 under and also done. Fred Couples, how about this? He birdied the first hole, had an eagle as well today. He's 1 under par in the clubhouse. And some other guys that have won this before, like Bubba Watson, 1 under par. Not sure he'll be able to hang around and do that too. So those are some of that. Colin Morikawa even. We could go on the list for a long, long time.
Oh, hey.
Jordan Spieth, 1 over. No, he ended up 1 over.
By the way, golf aficionado.
Koepka's 1 over.
When I said during the draft that Brooks has never won the Masters, and you guys said, no, he's absolutely won the Masters, he is tied for second twice. He has never won the Masters. I did this earlier today, Smokey. You can look it up and tell me I'm lying. I did it earlier today. He's not won the Masters. He tied for second in 19. He tied for second in 23.
Well, then you know what?
He's won 5 majors.
God, I remember him with a
3
green jacket.
PGAs. And
he's won some majors. He's won
3
5.
PGAs and two U.S. Opens.
And you win them in surges. Yeah, Nicklaus won throughout the career. Then he had the last one in '86. Tiger had a junk full, like a drawer full, and then had to go 2008, and then didn't win again until he won the Masters. What was it, at 18 or 19?
19.
In 10 years. Of course, he had a lot of things going between that, including injuries. Damn it, I was wrong about Brooks. He's won over so far. Well, my guy, Batia, got 2 under early, and then he's kind of just nibbling away, trying to stay alive. And
I need Robert McIntyre.
Bogeyed 15.
I need McIntyre and Fleetwood to do better.
Fleetwood's out there. He's 1 over par.
Yeah.
You don't know. You're doing well.
Robert McIntyre's
Oh my
plus
God! This
3.
is for double bogey from 4 feet right of the hole.
Okay.
He just went from 4 under, which is still good at 2 under par. But you talk about a momentum killer, and now he has the par 3, the famous par 3, a 7 for what is a hole in which he should have been tapping in for a birdie. That is almost a 4-shot swing because you could have birdied, ended up losing a couple of shots to par. I don't know if anybody who had Straka.
Emery did.
Emery, he's 5 over through 13. Emery did not take Austin Eckroat, right? He's 4 over, done for the day. Rahm is 3 over, and he's struggling. Mickelson, 3 over, finished for the day. Waiting on John Cooper. We got him?
Still waiting.
Okay. We'll take a break here in a second. DJ Dustin Johnson, 2 over. Where's my boy, Lucas Glover? I'm scared. Oh, dear God, 78. I'm done. We're not doing this anymore. It is the hardest golf pull in America because you have to have every player make the cut. Everybody has to make the cut. And even Rob Bolton to this day still thinks it's the hardest golf picking.
Yeah.
It is.
You created it. You could have made it easier.
No, I mean, I think you should have an overall good team.
Yeah.
You can have 3 guys finish first, second, and third, but a guy misses the cut, you're done. So, all right, well, we'll come back with more John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. He'll join us. Mickey is normally with us on Thursdays. He'll be tomorrow, as we, of course, will be on the air tomorrow from 3 until 6. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Shane Beamer, head coach at South Carolina. They're on the up. Sellers, the quarterback, and what's the Stewart? Edge. Yes. South Carolina, the guy that I didn't know who he was at the Super Bowl. You guys set me up for failure there in that conversation. What did he say?
It's what?
It was the back pain.
Oh no, it was the painkillers. I was completely numb, but not numb enough because it still hurt. My back still hurt me. Now,
hold on, we got John.
Oh,
well, that's perfect timing.
Yes,
John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. Thank you. I didn't wake you up from a nap, did I? I hope I didn't wake you up from a nap.
No.
Hey, we just. Well, I could too. Paul and I just had Eric Morris, the head coach at North Texas, who was at Washington State, who was at Incarnate Word, who's the one who discovered Cam Ward coming out of high school. What a story, really, John, this is, from a zero-star player who didn't even run the same offense that they ran at Incarnate Word that allowed him to put up huge numbers. And here he is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. This, to me, is just it makes it even a greater story about who he is and what he's done.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's stories like that all the time. You know, you've seen some great quarterbacks over the years, some great players over the years that were unheralded coming out of high school and just, walk-ons, that just became great players. And Cam Ward is just another one in a long line of players like that. Great stories, and that's what makes the game all the more exciting.
John, what are you kind of watching as things shift around these last 2 weeks before the draft? What's become interesting to you trend-wise?
Well, some of the things that we've thought for a while are coming to fruition. And again, we won't know until the draft actually happens. But one of the things we said early on that we thought maybe from about 20 or 15 or 20 down to about 55 or 60, the value of these players wasn't much different. And it was a good value, not necessarily elite, top of the first round value, but good potential starters. And, I don't think we're going to be – I think we might be surprised in terms of how we rank players, but we shouldn't be, that maybe a guy that might show up on a board at number 50 gets taken in the first round. The value is that close, and it's just kind of the flavor of the day. What does the team need? What does the team want? What does the team like in a player? So that's what is kind of come to fruition for us, and we've seen it more and more. We're hearing it more and more, and we think it's going to be a tough draft to pick in terms of mock drafts.
I asked this question. I forgot exactly who it was, and I hope I haven't asked this one to you, John. But there are 32 first-round picks. How come it never seems like nobody? It seems like there are never 32 first-round grades. Have I asked you that before?
Well, I don't think so. But as far as 32 first-round grades, I think sometimes there are. I mean, the way we do it, and we change we go from year to year, and we say, okay, this is how we tier these players. These guys are top-of-the-line first-round picks. These next 10 or 15 could be first, could be second. These next, then we go another 15. It could be first, could be second, and then it's second, third. And then later in the draft, it's 5 to 7. Even though we've got a grade that says they're a 4th or 5th round pick, for us, he could go in the 5th, he could go through the 7th, he could go late in the 4th. So it's just that's kind of the approach we take. So we tier them. For example, there's 5 linebackers that we think are in the first tier. And they're first to second round picks. Maybe one could be even a third, but they're the top 5 guys.
Speaking of linebackers, that's not a a really deep position in the draft, especially at the top. I mean, like, think like one, Jihad Campbell, he's the other one, but then there's some guys that are really intriguing in the middle, like Barrett Carter and Jack Kaiser, guys like that.
Yeah, the thing we look at with these guys, some of them are a little undersized. Some of them don't have great cover skills. I mean, what do you want? Do you want a Mike that's a downhill thumper? Do you want a great combination of the two? Those guys are really hard to find. A guy that's got great cover skills, he can play in space, and then he can come downhill and take on interior linemen. And there's a lot of what we call smaller space guys that are really good in space. They've got some quickness on the move in terms of shedding blocks, but boy, if you get caught in line straight up with a guard, they're going to have trouble. A lot of guys like that, they're coming out every year. And some of those guys in the middle that, we think are good players that can do a lot of things really well. Barrett Carter is an undersized guy at just over 6 feet tall, 232 pounds. He's gotten a little bigger over time. Chris Paul Jr., we think, is a tremendously skilled linebacker who weighed in at 222, and he's only just over 6 feet. Bassa from Oregon is a nice player, 6'1", 232. That can get downhill, he can take on blocks, but he can get caught up inside sometimes. But boy, can he chase. Mondon from Georgia, former defensive back. These are some of these middle guys you're talking about. Is a nice player. Our top four, Knight, Walker, Campbell, Schlesinger. I'm thinking more about that Campbell should be a Sam linebacker, but I think he's a little undersized. I don't think he's necessarily really instinctive as an off-the-ball linebacker, but he's a tremendous athlete that can make plays. And it's going to be interesting to see what his weight shows up as, what his wingspan, all those kinds of things at his pro day. He hadn't run yet. So, there's a lot of ifs with him as far as I'm concerned. Jihad Campbell, he's a thumper, but he's got some upside with cover skills, and he might be the first-round pick. Guy we like is Demetrius Knight from South Carolina. We think he's a really good combination of the two, a thumper and a guy that has coverage potential, and we think he could be a good player. And somebody might look at him and say, hey, we're going to take this kid in the first round or early in the second. We're going to make something out of him. He's got talent.
John, how many linebackers now, with the way the game is played, are everyday linebackers coming out of college? I know there's probably a lot of names, but how many of them that are pretty much going to be a part of that weekend of the draft?
I think I wouldn't, putting a number on it. I think it's hard for me to, actually do that. I think we got draftable grades on about 25 guys. Probably not all will get drafted. And some of them have those skills. Some of the down the line guys are really good space guys that can play in the nickel and are probably going to be great special team players. They're going to be backups. At the top of the draft, you've got, guys I mentioned, Knight, Walker, Campbell, Schlesinger. Chris Paul Jr. is kind of our sleeper, who's a little bit undersized. We love him in terms of everything he does, but functional strength is probably going to be an issue for him as an every down starter. But yet, as a will, you play him as a stack linebacker. We think he has 3-down potential. Same thing with Carter. Stutzman's a bigger guy, but there's some holes in his game, but he's got 3-down potential. So does Bassa. After that, and Mondon Jr. from Georgia. But again, he's undersized, so he might not be. But I'd say the first 9 or 10 guys all have potential to be 3-down players. Now, whether they are remains to be seen.
John, what do you think of Noel Williams, the cornerback from California? Led the country in interceptions this year. He's not going to be picked high like Will Johnson or maybe Azaria Thomas or some of those guys, but he seems to be, because of the production he had creating turnovers, to be intriguing to me.
Well, he's a good player. I'm trying to think. We've got him probably a little bit down the line from there. From the top. I think he's like maybe 15 or something like that. He's got good length. He's got for sure. He's got ball skills, and he's got decent speed. He does a lot of things well, and there's a lot of corners in this draft, so he can get lost in the shuffle. But he's a mid-round, second day potential, possibly a third day pick. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. And there's another corner. Harris is another one from there. We've got a solid third round grade on him. So, we think that's, where he fits. He's 199 pounds. He runs a 4.5 40. He's not a burner. He's good ball skills. He's not the toughest guy in terms of that, but he's got a chance to be a good player.
John, set us up now. A couple of weeks away. Everything pretty much is done as far as testing and all that stuff. Sure, there are visits, whatever else. What is now in the big room or the draft war room at every franchise? Is there just a huge board? What do they have, and when do they start to put that thing up and finalize it?
Well, I think most of the teams and guys that I've talked to that were with teams are telling me that their board is set from the scouts' perspective. They're working with the coaches now to try, some of the teams anyway, some of the guys I've talked to, they're working with the coaches now, and they're having coaches watch film on specific guys. They're doing the tier thing that I'm talking about. They may say, hey, there's some guys we might like to take in this round that are edge players. So they'll have their defensive line coach or edge or defensive end, linebacker, outside linebacker, defender, whatever their terms they use. Look at 5 guys and say, these are guys we could consider drafting. And so just tell me what your opinion are. So they're just trying to solidify from the coaching staff what they think of these guys. And then the next week, they start to reset their board. I mean, it's set, but they have to reset it. If a coach or something comes up on the security report that says, this guy's a bad actor, this guy's got some baggage that we can't have him on our board, or we got to drop him down, we're not going to take him in the first round anymore for sure because of this. So that's going to always be that resetting, readjusting, and the coaches now play a part. Does this player fit the system? Is he a kid you can coach? Let's say it's an outside linebacker. Does he fit? You want coverage out of your Sam? Can he cover enough to meet your expectations? Is he physical enough? Can he rush the passer? And I know, for example, one team, I talked to said, they targeted edge rusher in the 5th round. This was a few years ago. And they had 5 names that they would take in the 5th round. And they did it the same thing with corner. These are 5 corners we'd take. And then if those 5 corners aren't there, then it's the next position. And so that's kind of, they're kind of setting that up. They're doing mock drafts. Not so much the mock draft. Some teams do a straight mock draft. Some teams, do it in tiers. And they say, these are 5 guys we take. These are 5 guys we think the team ahead of us might take and the team behind us might take. And then there's potential for trades. If we don't like what we're seeing about who's going to be there at pick number 76 in the 3rd round, we got to start thinking about trading up or trading down.
If someone's moving their lips talking right now, are they lying?
Well, a friend of mine who was, someone you know well, and a great friend, a guy I knew very well, Bill Tobin, once told me at this time of year, read and listen to everything you hear and believe half of it. So,
yeah.
Take that for what it's worth.
Listen to all of it, believe half of it.
There you go.
Like
there you go. How much more can you learn between now and the draft with what you do?
Not much. I'll tell you what, though, there's a lot of second guessing that goes on. For me, I'm sitting there saying, I'm looking at this player, I'm reading my report, and I say, oh my gosh, I can't believe after I wrote that report, I've got him that low. And then I look at the guy that's ahead of him. So there's a lot of second guessing that goes on. That's why the tier system works a little better. If you have 5 guys that are similar value, and you may rank them 1 through 5, but you don't necessarily have to. Then it becomes flavor of the day, like those linebackers I was telling you about. I kind of go back and forth on those 5 guys as to where they fit, and I have gone back and forth. And we've got in our guide where we have them now, but it's pretty close for some of those, at least for 3 or 4 of them. And we wouldn't be surprised if number 4 goes number 1 of that group in the draft, and it wouldn't bother us that much either.
Would any teams in the NFL, and John, thanks for your time again. We appreciate it. Our Lads Guide to the NFL Draft, ourlads.com. Will teams fly somebody in, whether it's the first round or whatever, especially because that's where you're so much unknown, even though it does appear what Ward locked in at Tennessee. Will they do any, mind games with bringing players in just to send a message or screw with somebody else that has a pick in front of or behind them?
Well, I imagine some of that goes on. I know people have put things out there, with some of the pundits, hoping that somebody will pick up on it and maybe try to trade up or something like that. I'm sure that's happened. I know that's happened. How much of that, I couldn't tell you. But as far as bringing guys in, when they bring somebody in, that top 30, and, they don't necessarily mean top 30 guys. It means the 30 guys that they would consider drafting, and it could be in the 3rd, 4th round.
Right.
They're going to bring in guys that they sincerely think they could draft. I mean, I was just talking to a guy, the other night, coach that, and he told me that, they've given him certain names to look at, and he asked me about some guys, and I said, well, there's a guy I really like, and they didn't give him to us. It's because they don't think he's going to be there when we want to pick a guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably why he wasn't given to me. And so that's, and he mentioned a couple guys that they had brought in, and they were guys that were mid-rounders, but they were guys that they liked, and they were probably potentially targeting at that spot.
Was there ever a player that you liked that not many others liked, and you knew you were right, and they didn't listen to you?
Oh, yeah, it happens. I can give you a lot of examples. I can also give you examples of when I thought I was right and I was dead wrong. So, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I know I'm the definite expert. But there's been a couple of guys recently that I really liked I had 3rd round grades on both of them, and they were free agents. They were signed as free agents, and they became very good players. Keaton Mitchell was one from East Carolina, running back. I loved watching him play, and I obviously got hurt, but he really set the world on fire for a while with the Ravens in 23 before he hurt his ACL. And then the other is Ivan Pace Jr., the linebacker that the Vikings signed as a free agent. And he was undersized. He was one of those under 6 foot tall guys. But he had been the player of the year in 2 conferences, in the MAC conference and the ACC, at different schools at Cincinnati and I forget what, Miami, Ohio, or one of those MAC schools. And, I watched him play, and I had a former player of mine that I had coached who was coaching. He actually coached at Ball State against him and East Carolina against him. And he told me, Coach, I'm telling you, this kid is great. You got to watch tape on this kid. We couldn't handle him. And I did, and I said, "Oh my gosh!" And nobody drafted him. It was a shock to me. And he was almost, he was an all-rookie team as a first-year player.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it, buddy. Appreciate it always. John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. I've known the great people from there, the Jim Sabo and Dan Shanka, that have been a part of that company for a long time, including John Cooper. Did you, by the way, Rory just airmailed 17, Paul. So he had the chip it into the creek and then just airmailed 17. Did you know that Jose Luis Ballester
peed in
Race Creek during the 1st round? Are you kidding me? I'm surprised that he's still alive.
And the thing he said that's really embarrassing is he had to go so bad he didn't even realize that there are bathrooms like on the other side of that very hole. Like the area where they're between, because they're not at every hole, is right there.
I'm sure like almost every hole there's a little players tuck themselves around the corner. Go behind the – but that – like at Augusta National, can you imagine that sir, Jose, we'd like to meet with you when you sign your scorecard. I think he shot 76, kind of an interesting note. One of the things that was going on, Justin Thomas had an issue. I'm not sure if it was a drop or what was going on. So he goes, hey, he had something going on the green. I had to go. So that at Augusta National, it's like appalled that would happen. All right, we continue. Craig just came back from practice. 365 Sports.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
365 Sports. Garrett Ross, Emery Winter, Andrew Valade helping to do all of what's going on to either what we're doing on the air. We appreciate everybody, our sponsors, those of you who watch us, various platforms that were available. Craig Smoak is back from practice. First time he's been there. I haven't been to one. Not sure if I'll get to one or not, but a lot of times they're practicing during the show, which Craig was able to get over there a little bit. And anything that you want to give us that you saw?
I mean, I'm not going to make more out of it than it was. It's just a spring football practice. It's like Lance Leipold told us yesterday, you know, when he starts getting all these spring questions about, like, where are you and all, and he's like, it's 6 months from the season starting. Like, we're not really into it like that. But it was from the surface, a well-oiled machine. I mean, you just feel like everybody kind of knows what they're doing and where they're supposed to be. And, yeah, you would hope that at this point in the Aranda tenure, but I just feel like everything's just kind of – it's moving smoothly. You know, everybody knows, like, with the facilities now done and that whole building that was the indoor, now the full football complex, like, there's no more construction going on, which is nice because that was all there was all summer, all spring last year. And I know they were still kind of in the midst of moving somewhat in season. I mean, they were, like, in that process. So now that's all seemingly done, and – yeah, it's just a different look, but in a really good way. It's good to go out there and, like, get that itch from the grass being freshly cut, you know, like get that itchy grass in the summertime kind of a feel, and just sweat a little bit being out there with the sun beating down on you. So smell of fresh cut grass, all that jazz. It was nice. It felt like spring football, which it hasn't felt like probably because I haven't been out there at all. Yeah. So now it does, and it was good to just kind of hang out a little bit.
Well, knowing who your quarterback is definitely going to be is a plus. Knowing that you've got a lot of veterans that have been in this. I think the biggest thing for Baylor in particular is they had a really good offensive line last year, which was the biggest question going in of can they, whoever it was going to be, Daquan Finn or Sawyer Robinson, can they can they not get them killed? And they did a great job, really developed along the way. And I think that gives you confidence offensively going back because you get most of the offense really back. I mean, you've lost a couple guys, but for the most part, I mean, everybody's back.
Yeah, and I mean, Walker White, who came in from Auburn, he looks the part next to Sawyer Robertson. There's a couple of the quarterbacks, the younger guys that aren't the biggest guys in the world, but when Walker White's standing there next to Sawyer, I mean, they look pretty similar size-wise, height-wise, filled out. Looks like they could both run the offense. So I think part of the sort of the smooth operation of it all, where maybe it was because of all the construction last year, or maybe it was because you had a quarterback battle going on, but like this seemed just way more chill. You know what I mean? It's like, because you do know the quarterback, and it's not even a question. There's no Walker White's going to maybe – no, Sawyer Robertson is the starting quarterback, and there's not a single second thought about that. So everybody knows what's what, basically. And there's other positions, obviously, that are battling. But, yeah, it's just felt like normal, which it should feel like. And to have that backdrop of the new facilities was really nice. And to see all that, how it all sort of builds a compound of sorts for them to have to themselves is definitely an upgrade from what they had really, well, the entire time we've all been here, basically, when it was just an indoor sitting there and there was just nothing but grass and riverbank and all that. I mean, now it's this full-blown, built-out facility. So, it was cool to see all that because I hadn't been over there in quite a while. And just, again, it was good to be, like, itchy and sweaty and just sort of out there and taking in spring football, and just it's like, oh yeah, it does feel like spring football. Now that's part of what I was missing, like I said at the top of it. But yeah, I mean, I think part of the smooth operation too is not only do you not have a question about certain things, like big questions like your quarterback, but also sitting there and like Sawyer Robertson's kind of like running the drills almost, like he's just like, all right, over here now, and everybody's just sort of like, so there's a smooth, changing from one drill to the next, and I don't know how much of that wins you games, but it's just It just felt like there was a calm there, that hasn't always been there the last couple of years. So it's what you want. It's just a spring practice. It shouldn't be chaos and craziness and tons of questions and all of that. But yeah, it was great to just see all that in action for the first time.
What Blanket saying that having everyone back isn't always a good thing, even if you conference runner-up. Everyone. I think pretty much everybody's probably experienced that at some particular time or another. By the way, Rory McIlroy followed up the double on 15 with another double on 17. Airmailed the green. He has completely melted down as he, of course, is searching for his first ever green jacket. Now, thank you, Craig. Appreciate the update. South Carolina's pretty good. And the expectations, of course, coming off of last year with the quarterback back and others. Shane Beamer's done a pretty nice job there as part of the SEC, and they were a part of the discussion last year. So he was asked a couple of different questions. And here is his Garrett, are you going to play these separately?
So I'll play the first one where he's talking about the strings and the lineup, and then go into the player, talking about the players. So
here's what he's asked. Here's what he's getting a response to, that there was an article written about the depth chart for South Carolina. And he's not happy about the fact that somebody published who like the first, second, and third string left guard might be, including yet a follow-up that he just answers about their quarterback and how he's looked during the scrimmage they had.
Very disappointing when an article comes out that says, here's the first team offensive line, second team offensive line, and third team offensive line. I mean, that's horse crap, guys. We don't have a first team, second team, third team right now. We don't. It's freaking April. So for a reporter to come out there and say, here's the third team offensive guard, I mean, what are we doing? So if you come out there and it's 11 on 11 and you watch the offense, 11 people versus. Plus, I love all the insider reports from our scrimmage last weekend about Jaden Sellers. He didn't even scrimmage. I mean, somebody's going to ask me about Jaden Sellers today and how great a scrimmage he had. He was sick. He didn't scrimmage. So I know there's a lot of information out there, and everybody could say, well, Shane, just open up every practice, and we don't have to get bad information and things like that. Well, I don't. Until every other school in America opens up spring practices, and we're all out there reporting what everybody's doing, great, I'll do it then. But right now, we have a lot. We have a new offensive coordinator. We're doing some new things offense.
So there he is. He's got fired. He's been a part of a few of those look across the field type, testosterone level drama. But someone publishing it's probably a writer. I don't know if it's a beat writer. I'm not sure what it is, but he looked at practice, thought so-and-so was the first, second, and third team. He makes a pretty good point. But also about Sellers in the scrimmage, and he wasn't even there. He was sick. That's not good.
Yeah, he's had the big blow-up with Brett Bielema, as you might remember from last year. I do have to correct you, though. He's not talking about their quarterback. He's talking about a wide receiver, Jaden Sellers. He's not talking about Lenora Sellers. He's talking about Jaden Sellers, a wide receiver. So, that's a clarification. But, I get that. I don't know what he read that set him off, but I don't think it's surprising that there's websites based around his football program that are trying to come up with content. To be fair, I will say I found it strange in the past when I've seen, even the website we used to be connected with, they would do that. It might not have been a published article, though, so maybe there's the difference. But I know that Grayson would be out there at practice, and he'd be like, hey, this dude, they're running first-team O-line. I know I've read that 1,000 times before. Just maybe it was behind the paywall, so it wasn't a big deal. But, I get some – he's doing that because I'm sure there's a player who's reading that like, I'm third team, and then he's got to worry about portal or, whatever the case may be. So he's got to – and every other coach, I don't think they're trying to name any starters unless it's just blatantly obvious, like Lenora Sellers is your starting quarterback. There's no question about that. But, if there's other positions where guys are fighting, the last thing you want is somebody thinking that they're not going to play next year and it's freaking April, to his point.
Yeah, I
Parents, agent.
I especially don't need a depth chart in the spring because, and I get if you're a reporter, you're trying to come up with content, and they're trying to you got to feed the beast, right? But it's not like if I'm at the spring game, I need the roster and what the depth chart is for that day. But also part of it is just maybe informing your audience that hey, it is more fluid now than it's ever been. So what I'm writing today is less likely to be true than it was when you grew up watching this sport.
I've seen beat reporters say, not official, but this is what it appears to be.
This is who was first team at practice on Tuesday. This isn't anything official. Yeah.
And the thing about that is, again, a guy could be sick, a guy could have class, a guy could have there could be things that they have to make up. And in the spring, all right, you miss one practice because you've got a sore toe. They don't really send hand across America for it. It's just all right, well, he's out. Oh man, for the last two practices. Emory Winter's been running first team tight end, and you're like,
that bomb has
what has something's going on? Did he beat out Garrett Ross? Holy cow! No, Garrett just has a sore toe. They don't want to make it worse, and
I heard Garrett's holding out for more NIL.
Yeah,
damn right.
Yeah, so all that that stuff. Now I do when we get to the fall. And this becomes right before the games, and they don't want to release it like they don't anymore. Yeah. Then I'm like, guys, come on.
It's football season. It's time to start talking about it. But, I can understand he's got to protect his roster, and I'm sure there's bound to be family members or agents or whatever. What do you mean he's third team and blah, blah, blah. And so you don't want to, risk a guy going to the portal because he read a report from Gamecock Illustrated or whatever website he was pointing towards there. I'm sure there is a Gamecock Illustrated. I don't know that I just said that because it's what came into my head.
If there's not, somebody needs to make one up. Yeah.
I guess. I get where he's coming from. I also don't think he should be surprised. I don't think he's surprised, but you definitely should not be surprised that people whose livelihoods are focused on your football team are trying to come up with content during a time of year that's not slow because you have spring practice to talk about, but it's definitely a lot slower than it is during the heart of the season when everything's going on.
Well, they got a good team, so that was audio that I saw while I was kind of weaving through a little bit last night. Also, one more note before we get to the top five. The Power Four commissioners met. They were a part of a forum at College Sports Day on the Hill. Here's a couple of quotes. Brett Yormark said the settlement needs to be codified with a federal bill called the portal unsustainable. Commissioners are addressing the portal issue. Jim Phillips of the ACC said commissioners feel really good about today's meetings and must preserve the Olympic sports. And then Greg Sankey, saying that leaders must keep pushing for federal legislation, said the downstream effects of employment would be substantial. Tony Petitti said access and other benefits for athletes would go down in any kind of employment model.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that would answer, I think, most everything to a large degree. I'm sure there's something that would also be prone to, a lawyer or whatever, because that's just, I don't think there's a magic wand outside of just breaking off entirely and making a pro football league. But, there's unintended consequences that I don't know how much, if you're an athlete who's about to be like a junior or senior, when you've grown up fully in this era since 2020, I don't know how much you've thought about actual consequences to some of these moves, because everything's been like, whatever you want. NIL, no cap, no nothing. Transfer as many times as you want to. Like, extra year, sure as hell gonna get that. Like, I mean, they got literally, if you think about it, literally everything you can think of that was like a major topic, really. And maybe I'm blanking on something there, but yeah, I think there are unintended consequences. And so for everybody who does want employment, I mean, I do, because I just want it to head that direction of just taking care of some of the noise. But if you're an athlete, it might be a different story. And that's why you push back a little bit on the idea of just full-blown employment. And then again, those guys stand to not benefit as greatly. So, of course, I think they're going to make that out to be the boogeyman. How much of it actually is the boogeyman or not, I don't know. But, yeah, it's clear those folks don't want it. So they're going to paint it to be something that's, not worth pursuing if you're the other side.
Well, I tell you what, before I go to bed every night, I try to have at least most of our guests line up. There's always going to be some additions. Drives Garrett crazy. And then we get them sometimes an hour before the show. But it was somewhat refreshing to me, even though the story about the Tennessee quarterback looking to renegotiate, or who was, it was refreshing to have that story into a top 10 list of quarterbacks that could have been put up by 25 people, because at least was about the game.
Yeah.
Which
sure.
we do.
But look,
like a lot of times it's not anymore.
Like when I heard that, and John Gallagher mentioned that Mark Few, was going to go try to get in front of, and all that. Probably not the best week to have a minor issue going on in the Capitol Hill this week, given all the things that are going on. And I know this is a major issue in their world, but as the grand, total of it, it's not. But when they have these things like, hey, we're going to have a hearing, man, like let's try to pass some bills. I just looked, so just for my own edification, because I was curious. Ted Cruz, who's the senator that is going to be most responsible for the bill if it does pass, has only, in his many years in the Senate, sponsored 19 bills that have been passed.
Is that less than one a year?
No, it's not less than one a year. But of those bills, 10 of them are to name highways and public buildings. So of those other ones, only nine has something to do with something you would care about. And I'm not trying to dunk on Ted Cruz. I'm just saying that
you're not a big fan.
I'm not a big fan, but I'm also giving you the numbers on, look, this is the guy who's responsible for this. In a long time, he's only sponsored 9 bills that are anything that anyone else would care about other than the people who happen to be in a courthouse in Bastrop. So, or want to name something I-27. That's it. It's going to take a while. It takes a long time. I know that the leaders want to accelerate this, but they are not working with a guy who works real fast.
How long have we heard that they've wanted to accelerate it?
A long time. So, again, he's been in the Senate since 2013. So he's been in for 12 years now. And he's less than one a year that are not naming bills, naming something. And those things are formulaic. Hey, I have to do this because this is a federal courthouse. We want to name it after this guy who was a well-known judge here. So I'm going to present it, and then everybody in the Senate's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Name it after whoever you want. That's not the thing. But when it comes to real meat and potato stuff,
I almost did not bring up these commissioners.
Yeah,
because it makes you go back into that
hamster
wheel.
But it's because it's nothing. It's right now. It's nothing. It is absolutely nothing.
Yep. All right, we will come back. Paul Catalina and his top 5 so far today. We appreciate it. Thanks again to Eric Morris of North Texas for joining us, Max Olsen, John Cooper, Sam Kahn. We got a lot more to get to, of course, and we will. Don't forget tonight, 10:30, 365 Sports Tonight that Emery is editing on the local CW. This is 365 Sports.
You spent hours selecting your patio sofa. Choosing that grill would have taken weeks. Probably your car needed way more time. For sure, you would have spent months mulling over that pool of yours. Protecting your prized possessions needs no time, though. Just visit coversandall.com, create a custom size per your requirements, pick a fabric, and personalize your cover. And leave the rest to us. Premium protection for all that you love.
You might ask yourself what functional mushrooms are good for. Whether it's lion's mane, cordyceps, turkey tail, shiitake, reishi, they all serve a purpose.
You have ones for neurological health, ones for sleeping and gut health and all these different areas. They pack a powerful punch.
Functional mushrooms are, of the millions of mushrooms and fungi out there, the ones that we can actually ingest and benefit from as humans.
Like all adaptogens, they kind of adapt to what you need at the time that you need them.
We don't even really know that we're suffering. We just don't quite feel right. That's where these adaptogens come in and really start to close the gap and really start getting us closer to how we want to feel.
Functional mushrooms have definitely re-energized me and helped me face each day with a new vigor for life.
Learn ways that functional mushrooms can help you. Go to getumble.com.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Ticket Club. Forget the fees, just big savings. Click the link in the description to find out more.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5. Let's do master stuff for the next couple of days. Today, top 5 players never to win the Masters. Number 5, and I am right about this. During our draft the other day with Rob Bolton, I said, well, Brooks Koepka has never won a Masters. And Emery and Smokey chimed in like, oh, yeah, he has. Yeah, he has. No. Tied for second in 2019 and 2023. Don't question my golf knowledge, plebes. I'm above you. No. He has never won one. He's got 5 majors. He's never won the Open Championship, and he's never won the Masters. 3 PGA Tour championships and 2 U.S. Opens. Not a green jacket, which even though this is rolling his eyes because of Bryson DeChambeau, I'm sure that's how he feels every year at Augusta, where he plays well but hasn't won. And of course, in 2019, he lost to Tiger, and no one felt bad for him. No one. Not even his own wife. She didn't even cry a tear for it. Everybody knew it was cool that Tiger won that one. Number 4, Ernie Els. In the 90s and early aughts, there was nobody smoother than Ernie Els. The guy just won a bunch of times on tour. He never got his green jacket. And believe me, that would have been like a really long jacket. He's a tall dude. I saw him play once at the Byron Nelson, and his swing was just so smooth. He's like the antithesis of Charles Barkley. Like Charles Barkley is tall and has that herky-jerky swing. Ernie Els' swing was like, came down from the gods, from Mount Olympus. It was so good and so smooth, and our older viewers, of course, remember Ernie Els, and our younger viewers may not, but he was one of the best and never got that green jacket. Number 3, Walter Hagen. Seeing here playing apparently along the side of a road, but 11-time major winner, one of the great original golfers, never did win at Augusta National. And then, in The Legend of Bagger Fans, was played by the same guy who played D-Day. So, maybe not as warmly remembered as he probably should have been. But Walter Hagen never won the Masters. A little side note here. I did not realize this until today doing research on this. Bobby Jones, who designed the course, never and played in the Masters 12 times, never actually won it. That's how tough he made it, that he couldn't even beat it. Number 2, Rory McIlroy. And look, it's set up now for him to win it. So to get him on this list, I had to put him and Brooks on this one because they could both win it this weekend. But Rory, this is the one for the career Grand Slam that has eluded him and it's been very frustrating. But he seems to be in a good place, and now's as good a time of any for Rory to win the thing. And number 1, our new best friend, Lee Trevino. If you did not hear the interview or see it, the one we did yesterday with him, listen to it. He's hilarious. He is so great, but never won at Augusta. And he talks about that a little bit, about how it just didn't match up with his style of game. Guy won 6 majors, but never did win at Augusta National. That's how difficult it is. And there are scores of golfers. I couldn't even mention this, but I picked the 5 that to me are the most surprising that never won or have not won to this point. And Lee Trevino is certainly one of them because he was, at his time, one of the best golfers that there was, and one of the best that has ever walked a course here in the world. That's going to do it for the show, and that's going to do it for the top 5. Smokey, say bye.
I will say goodbye. As they're about to say goodbye to the first round of the Masters in Augusta, Georgia. It's been kind of nice to watch that off to the side. Emery Winter, thank you, sir. Also, Andrew Valade, Garrett Ross, our sponsors. Thank you to those who watch us every day on all the various platforms, including, of course, on YouTube. For Craig Smoak and for Paul Catalina, we got work to do tomorrow. I got to get some guests for us tomorrow.
Okay.
We got some great topics.
Or we can just knock
more.
Off and watch the Masters.
That's fine with me. We're no show till Monday. I'm David Smoak. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and good night on 365 Sports.